Hello, 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 friends. How are we this evening? I hope you all are doing well. We're going to get started in about 4 minutes. Also, once some more early birds get in here, I am going to ask you all to help me out by making sure that my closed captions are working. Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, Tabara, were they? Oh, great, Rascal. That's awesome. Thank you. Were they automatically on when you got onto the stream, or did you have to enable them? Automatically? Okay. Okay. Yeah, and if you do want to disable them, you should be able to by there should be a little pop out that comes on the right, and you can disable them that way if you want to disable them. Oh, Topsilog, hi, how are you? Thanks for joining. Yeah, awesome to have you here live. Oh, hey, go to USA. Welcome. Okay. Yeah, there should be captions now. So awesome, awesome possum. But if you don't want captions, you can click the little pop out to the right of your screen. It should mouse over to the right of the screen. You should get a little pop up, and you can disable them that way. Hi, Giles. Welcome. Florence, good to see you again. How are you? Hey, Janbo. Hey, 300. Yeah. Way back since the Discord days. That's right. I've embraced the modern era. We're on Twitch now. Yeah, we are going to have some fun tonight. We are going to play Jeopardy. We're going to build Jeopardy and then we're going to play it. It's going to be rad. Goa to USA. Okay, I'll remember that. Hey, Vedecha, how are ya? CD, hi. Lamb sauce. Oh my gosh, you just redid the doggo generator and the soup checker. Very cool. Florence, is this Jeopardy version going to be Anki review? Well, I mean, I'm sure you could build a version that's based on your Anki. Born, well, I'm going to the HTML is actually going to be really simple. But what we're going to do tonight is a little different than kind of what we have done before. Is we're going to just go ahead and build the GitHub as we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a basic create the repo and push to it, and so you can just grab the GitHub files. That's going to be like the first thing we're going to do. Hey, Jack Flash. Hey, Goofer. Oh, okay. That makes sense, Goa. Yeah. Very cool. Hey, Conkers. Hey, Pink Star. Wolf Pack. Yeah. That's right. All right. Here we go. Hey, thank you for the raid, Rascal. Thank you. Yeah. So we're going to get right into it. Yeah. So the last, for those of you who are wondering what the wolf pack thing means, for the last person that we rated, who was super cool. I think I hope I don't get this wrong. Whistleface, I think that's their name. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. They were super cool. House music producer, sick beats, so awesome. And their follower, when we rated, their followers were like, "What do we call you guys?" And they kind of dubbed us the Wolf Pack. So we are the Wolf Pack now. Y'all are my code wolves, which I love that. I think that's totally rad. Um, so yeah, Wolfpack, WOLFEPACK. Yeah, hashtag Wolfpack, totally. Can I link his channel? Maybe. Let me see if I can get it pulled up here. Oh yeah, yeah. No. It was a super cool. Let's see. That's my captions. Whoops. Gotta have the captions open in a second window so they actually pop up. Let's see. Somebody can grab Whistleface's channel. That would be great. Wolfpack, yeah. I'm trying to get it pulled up. Somebody else might get it to me sooner though. Oh, thanks, Jenks. Yeah, Jenks got it faster than I could. Yeah, so look at Jenks's link. Oh yeah, and Rascal linked it as well. Super fun, super cool, positive person. And yeah, I jammed out to their beats for a while. Oh, BW Dev, yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun. Wolfpack, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So tonight we're going to do a few things. We're going to build a completely awesome Jeopardy game, fully functioning Jeopardy game. And oh, Ezekiel, thank you so much. Wow, much appreciated. Yeah, we're going to be building a Jeopardy game, and we are also going to practice a little bit with GitHub, setting up a project, and pushing that project pretty regularly throughout, so that'll make it easier for you guys to follow along. The folks that like to code along, which is awesome. Sometimes you have one thing in your code that's maybe not working, and you're not sure what's broken, and so if I'm pushing regularly, then you can just go ahead and you can grab the most recent code from the GitHub page and just do a compare that way. So, and it also helps us just practice GitHub. It's good to practice. Okay, so this is what we're going to be building. I'm going to show you the finished product first. So this is Jeopardy-ish, because it's like Jeopardy, but not quite. And so you can see at the top, we've got our categories. And actually, I'm going to reload this just to show you what it's. So if we look at it just from the start, right, we've got blank categories. And if we go down here to the bottom, we click Start New Game. We see that the categories populate. And so we can choose an item from any of these categories. So let's choose, which one should I choose? Tell me which category to pick. Time for unch. Okay. All right, let's pick the 400 one. Okay, so we can see the collection, the question pops up here at the top. Collection of coconuts in a 1950 novelty song. I think it's a bunch. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Da, da, da. I only know that because of The Lion King. Remember they sang it on The Lion King? Yeah. All right. So I click OK into my answer and I click OK. I don't have to phrase it in a question. What is a lovely bunch? Yeah. And so we can see I answered bunch and it says, and the correct answer was a lovely bunch. It says my answer appears to be incorrect, but I know that it was correct because I said, a bunch, right? And so I would say that's correct. So I can either click OK to accept that I was wrong, or I can click cancel if I don't agree with the judgment. So I'm going to click cancel because in my opinion, my answer was right. And so when I do that, we can see that I still get 400 points or $400. All right, we'll do one more and then we'll actually get into building it. I know it'd be fun to play the whole round, wouldn't it? All right, we're going to do theme for 800. Dee's requested theme for 800. Oh, okay. Now this one didn't work, and we'll go into why that doesn't work because some of these questions are so old. Some of them are from before the year 2000. And before the year 2000, the actual questions didn't have this high of a dollar value. It's like 2000 or 2001, I don't remember. So we can do theme for 200 and that will work. All right. Laura's theme can be heard in this epic film directed by David Lean. Oh my goodness. I have no idea. What do you guys think? This seems like a really old question. It's probably from like the 80s. Tomb Raider, maybe? Dr. Zhivago. Ooh. Raider of Tombs. Okay, I'm gonna go with Dr. Zhivago just because I think this is a really old question and that sounds like a more of a classic movie. Thank you for spelling it too because I would not be able to spell it. Dr. Zhivago. There we go. All right, let's try it. I don't know if I need to put the dot in there or not because it does look for an exact match. So, oh, of course, and it spells it out. Yep, but that's right. You guys got it. So yeah, so I agree that that was the right answer, and so we got our points there. Um, Noise. Yeah. All right, let's do one more. All right. Read my lips. I know this one. No new taxes. Taxes. There we go. Yeah. And so this time, since I got it exactly right, my answer appears to be correct. So I'm going to click OK, and I get more points that way too. Noised. Yeah. So this is what we're going to be building. And it works off of a dedicated Jeopardy API, which I think is just really cool. So yeah, we're going to hit this Jeopardy API to build our board. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Jeopardy, it is a US based game show. I think there's probably versions in other countries too, though. And yeah, this game show has a lot of meaning to me personally, just because I grew up watching it with my mom. She loves Jeopardy, and so it was like a tradition in our family. Every weeknight, she would turn on the little TV in the kitchen, and we would sit around the counter and play Jeopardy. So this is really fun for me. All right. So the first thing we're going to do before we start coding is we're going to go ahead and also set up our GitHub project. Oh yeah, I love that this is such a family thing for so many people is watching Wheel of Fortune, and where I lived anyway. Wheel of Fortune came on right after Jeopardy, so you watch Jeopardy and then you go straight into Wheel of Fortune. So yeah. Your goal is to make Alex Trebek roll over in his grave, or being proud of me from beyond the grave. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up our project. And so I need to find my. So I already set up. I got a repository ready for this. So my repository is ready to go. So I have the URL. And I'm going to go ahead and set up my local repository and then sync to it. So getting my windows squared away here on my other screen. The screen where I actually look at chat is really small, so I have to be careful about my window positioning. You like to buy a modulo? Okay, so we've already created our repository. Now we can open our command line here, get it on the right screen, and I hope y'all can see that okay. So I've already navigated to the folder where my demo files are located. So it's in my documents folder, and you can see I started out in documents, and I said CD, and I went to the folder Jeopardy for demo. Now, if your folder has spaces in it, you can put single quotes around the folder name. Otherwise, if you don't, it won't like that because it just doesn't like items with spaces unless you specifically make sure that you are categorizing it as a single item. Born, I'm just showing you how to set up a project. You can set up your own version if you want. I'm just showing you how I would set up a new project, and then I'm going to show you, obviously give you the URL so that you can copy the code, or access the code whenever you want to during the project tonight. Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah, or you can start typing and hit tab. Yeah, that's a great tip, Emleg. Okay, so we're in the right folder, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to initialize our local directory. So it's going to turn it into a local Git directory. So we're going to say git init, okay? And you can see it says initialize an empty repository. Now this is the local repository. And now we can add all of the files in the folder. Actually, I'm gonna show you what's in here too. Yeah, so we can see inside of my Jeopardy for Demo folder, I typed ls, and that shows me the three files that I have in there. Not surprising, right? I've got my index, I've got my main, and I've got my style. So I want to add these files to my local Git. I want to stage them to the local repository. So I'm going to say git add, and I'm going to say dot, and that will just grab all the files and get them ready. Okay, so git add. And the next thing I want to do is I want to commit. So this is just still a commit to the local repository. So I'm going to say git commit -m commit at start of demo. Oops, there we go. All right, so then that's going to do the initial commit. Okay. And now the next thing that we need to do is we need to add our remote repository. So the repository that I set up on GitHub. So I'm going to grab that. Boop. And I'll share this URL with you guys after we're done with our push. So I've got that. Yeah, when you stop and look at it, Jeopardy looks weird as a word. It does. It is such a weird word. Jeopardy. It's so weird. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to add our remote repository as like the destination for our files. So I say git remote add origin, and then I can pop that in there. Now, how did I paste? For those of you who don't know, you can just right click and it will paste whatever you have in your clipboard into your bash here. Okay, so do that and we hit enter. Oops. All right. Come on. There we go. It just took a minute. Okay. I thought I did. There, now it worked. Okay. And the next thing we want to do is we are going to push our local repository to that remote repository. So, and we only have to do this once. Like this is just the initial setup. For those of you who haven't done this before, like you're like, wait, I got to do all these steps. No, you do this once. You link your local repository to the remote one, and then you don't have to do this again. So I know this is probably like remedial for some of you folks who have been using Git, to do your code wars and that kind of thing. But I figure there's always some new folks on here, so this is good to go through. So git push origin -u master. And this is linking our local repository with the remote one. And that -u in there, I put it in the wrong order. Sorry. Git push -u origin master. My bad. And that -u there it just makes the linkage permanent. Yep. All right. So git push, and that sets that up. Okay. And that's written everything there. And we can see branch master is set up to track the origin master. So they've been linked together. And then now we're good. And so now in the future, all we need to do is just say, git commit and then git push, and then that'll just push it straight up. Yeah. And put main if you're using main. Yeah. I mean, it depends on what branch you're on. Yeah. It depends on how you have your GitHub repo set up. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And two, I want to share something with you guys too. So if you're having trouble, remembering what to do, this is a really good simple reference article that I found that's a lot simpler than a lot of maybe some of the other tutorials out there. So I'm going to share this with you. So I just sent it to you in chat there. Check that out. It walks through the steps pretty simply. Oh yeah, yeah, and two, like I was using master just because that's kind of how it used to be, and but yeah, I should switch to main. You guys are right. I'll switch to main going forward. No, yeah. Okay, so I'll share with you guys now. So now that we've done this, we can go to my repository here, and we can see that the commits are all here. Commits at the start of demo are all here. And if we click into it, you can see that there's code there. And so our push worked, right? So I'm going to grab this URL. And so now what you guys can do is each time, like if you're coding along, each time I do a push, you can, if you're having trouble with your code, you can grab the fresh code. Each time we were going to push periodically, and you guys can keep up with what I'm doing kind of not in real time, but in, fairly currently anyway. So there you go. No, Born, I'm not going to work on my code in GitHub. I'm just going to push to it so you can grab it at regular intervals, like at each break. You could go and I'll definitely do a push at each break. And so that way you can grab it. And, if you're having trouble with your code, you can fork it. Yeah, you can fork it if you want. So we're gonna minimize this for now, and I'll just do some, I'll commit and push, at every break. And or you don't have to use this at all. It's up to you. Just making it available to you. Yeah, and like you're right. You can push directly from VS Code, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that too. Not saying you should. Get Leon really wants us to use the command line, but I am going to show you how once you've linked your code to your repository, I'm going to show you how you can do all this stuff directly from VS Code. Yep. All right. So now if we go back, if we go to, excuse me, if we go to our, our file here, as soon as I make a change, it should, as soon as I make a change and just save whatever it is, yeah. So now we can see that my index file here turned yellow, and it has a little M next to it. So it's saying, hey, you've made a change and you haven't committed it and pushed it up to your repo yet. You have an uncommitted, unpushed change. So I love the integration of Git with VS Code. It's really nice. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Rascal. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do all my future ones with main. Yeah, go. It's up to you how you want to do it. If you want to just code independently and then do comparisons and get back against mine, you can fork it. Or if you clone, yeah, I believe if you clone, then my changes will keep in sync, with your version. Yeah, Rascal, it's easier to go from command line to GUI. Just yeah, because you learn the nuts and bolts of it first, and then you get the fancy then you get the fancy methods of interacting with it later. GUI, yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm gonna get my notes pulled up, and we will go. And we're gonna plan on. Let's see. We'll take a break at 9. We'll plan on our first break at 9, and I'll do a commit and push before the break as well. Okay. Don't let me forget to do that. I trust you guys to remind me. Don't let me forget the break, and don't let me forget to do a commit and push. Okay, so you can see I have some very basic HTML set up here. It's just the standard header, empty body tags, and then linking to my script, linking to my style sheet. So nothing we haven't seen before. And inside the body, I'm really not going to put a lot. Our HTML that we're actually going to hard code is going to be very simple. we're going to do everything else with styling and JavaScript. So this is going to be a really cool illustration of how you can simplify repetitive tasks in your HTML using JavaScript to essentially do the hard work for you. So we're just going to have a nice H1 where we're going to put our title. We're going to call it Jeopardy-ish. Jeopardy-ish. And underneath there, we need a box for our score. So we're going to put a span for our score. Score. And then another span for the actual score value. I suppose we could use a label too, but whatevs. So score, and then we're going to put a default score of 0. I'm going to give my span an ID of score as well, because we're going to want to target that later. Okay, and then now we're going to actually build our game board. But you notice that, remember, the game board, the actual game board that we looked at before, pull it back up here, it's pretty complicated, right? We've got like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 36 boxes, right? Each of them with a dollar value inside. So if I start a new game, like we've got all these boxes with dollar values, 36 boxes with each with an independent dollar value. Now, I could go through and I could build, a bucket, and then I could put 36 individual divs in there or whatever. And I could hard code all those dollar values, or I could not do that. And we could write some JavaScript to do it for us. So I'm going to pick a big bucket for just to hold my whole game. And I'm going to call it game container. We're just going to make the buckets for the stuff, and then we're going to let our JavaScript do the rest. Container. There we go. And we're going to have a section for our categories. So like there's that top row. I'm going to give it an ID of category row. And then we're also going to have a section for the rest of our clues. So ID is going to be clue board. And that's all we're going to do. That's all the setup we're going to do for that whole game board. So all of this, we've just set that up. That's all. We're not going to do any of that. We're just making this for now. And then the last thing we need is just the button that you can click to start the game. So we're going to have a button. It's going to have a type of button. Oops. Boop. Button. It's going to have an ID of start game. And the button is going to say start new game. Okay. And that's it. We're done. That's our HTML is done. Yeah, Rascal, some super Emmet users can make this in like 10 seconds. I know. I really want to explore Emmet, but I also feel like I need to, make sure I stay familiar with HTML tags too, and like don't forget, all the different tags, like how to actually use all the different tags. Yeah. Wow, that's you must construct additional pylons. Yeah. All right, so we're going to save this, and we're done with our HTML. So while we're here, since that's done, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick commit here and a quick push. Git add, git commit.m, HTML done. Okay, you can see one file changed. We only changed 8 lines. Super easy. Then I'm just going to do a git push. There we go. Okay, so that HTML is should be in the GitHub repo now if you want to grab it. And we can see that little yellow M next to my index file went away because we are now synced with the remote repo. So that's cool. I don't know why that settings box is open. There we go. Wow, that is easy, right? See, once you get linked up with your remote repo, your GitHub repo, like it's after that initial setup, like it's super easy to push from there, just for basic stuff. Yeah. Okay, so that's done. Easy peasy. I'm gonna hide this sidebar here. Now let's move on to our CSS, and also too, let's just get this server going too. Yes, we're using live server. So now you can see this is all we have, right? That's all we set up. So simple start. Let's go ahead and add some CSS. We're not going to do all the CSS, I think, in one fell swoop. We're going to do some JavaScript and then come back to the rest of the CSS, but we'll get some of the basic stuff configured. Yeah, you learned how to use the terminal in VS Code recently. That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't really explored that yet. Born, I used Live Server. Yeah, and it's not something that Leon recommends, and I can understand why, because it helps. When you're doing code regularly, right? After you save, you have to go to your browser and reload for your changes to show up. And Leon doesn't necessarily recommend live server because if you get yourself into like a live interview situation, you could bomb it if you forget, like if you save your code and then you can't figure out why something's not working just because you haven't reloaded the page. So for streaming purposes, live server is great because I'm making a ton of changes and we're going back and forth all the time, and I don't want to keep reloading. But it's really up to you whether you want to use it or not. Yeah. Yeah, and MLeg just shared the link to that extension as well. Oh, that's awesome, Escarda. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with our CSS. So we're not gonna get too crazy with it. Like, I never like to get too crazy with my styling, but we're just gonna add some basic formatting to help us see where our various elements are. And you know me, we're gonna be adding some borders, baby. We are gonna add borders. It's gonna be great, so we can see where our boxes are. So we're gonna add some stuff to the body. We're going to do our text align center. We are going to set up a good font family. I don't know. I just picked like Arial something. If anybody wants to suggest a font, you're welcome to. I want something sans serif. Um, Background color is just going to be light gray because I'm boring. Light gray. And I also want box size and border box. Okay. And our H1. We're gonna make the font size 3 rem. Actually, I'm gonna go 2.5. I'm gonna make it a little smaller. 2.5 rem. Gonna give it a little. We're gonna decrease the bottom margin on a little bit because if you don't use like the normalize or the CSS reset or one of those, remember that your headers and various those common tags are gonna have some default styling that's built in. So I'm gonna change this margin, the preset margin. I'm gonna decrease it down to 10 pixels. Oops. Mark's borders off the bingo card. Yeah. We always, you know me, we always do some borders. That's how we roll. That's how the wolf pack rolls. We got our borders. Goofer, do you like setting your font size to 62.5% so we can use 1 rem as 10 pixels? Yeah, I do. If I'm doing something that's more complicated, like if I'm doing something where I have a bunch of different like font sizes, or if I'm really heavily using rems, which are, rems are directly tied to font size. If I'm using rems as units of measurement for like lots of different items, then yeah, I'm going to normalize that font size so it's down to 10 pixels. For a little project like this, I don't generally bother, but that's up to you. Yeah, but if I was like using rems to style buttons and boxes and all this types of stuff, I definitely would. Yeah. All right, our button, remember buttons also have default styling, so you need to independently set the font size for your buttons. They're pretty small by default, so I like to make them bigger. And then also margin bottom on that as well, just something small, just to kind of space out the elements a little bit. All right, so let's see how that looks just for now. Okay, that's looking decent. And I think I put this. Oh yeah, no, score is fine. We're gonna format that in a second. So yeah, that's looking better, looking good. Um, normalize, normalize, normalize. Yeah. Oh yeah, and thanks MLeg for sharing how to operate live server. That's very helpful because yeah, if you haven't used it before, you might not notice that little button down on the bottom right that you got to click to turn on your live server. So thank you for that. All right, so our span. Remember, our score is in a span, and so actually, I don't think I need to. Hang on, look at something here. No, it's okay. I'm going to leave. I was originally going to set the display to block, but actually, I think I want my score to be on one line. So I'm going to skip that. We're going to see how it goes without. I'm going to set my font size to 2 rem. And font weight is bold. And okay. Now we're going to do some formatting on the game container. So the game container is just like the bucket that holds both our category row and then all the dollar value clues down below. So it's just this bucket here. And I know I'm going through this kind of fast, but really nothing I'm doing here is particularly revolutionary. We're really just centering things, getting things, making font sizes bigger, and changing some tag presets. So nothing crazy. Born, sometimes I use the pre-built templates. Like for the last project that we did, I used the pre-built templates, but that actually seemed to be a little confusing for folks, just with all the extra like configurations that are kind of pre-baked in. And so I went back to just not using that for this stream, but it's up to you. There's nothing wrong with them. They're perfectly fine. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with using those templates, and they can be really helpful, especially again when you're working on more complicated projects that you really want to make sure all that default formatting is just blitzed out of there. But for something like this, when we're not getting too crazy with the HTML, like we're not, we only have 8 lines of HTML in this whole thing, right? So it doesn't take that long to style it. Yeah, the span is for the score size. Yeah, that's all it's for. Yeah, Rascal, and that's kind of what I prefer. Rascal says they start all their projects from pure scratch and rewrite and copy and things as they explicitly need them, like the box sizing, normalize. Yeah. So if I was doing something, more complicated with a bunch of, nested elements and that kind of thing, and doing a lot of like visual work, I would probably be using the normalize and reset and that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, so next we're going to style the game container. Now, our game container, remember, is a section with an ID. So if I want to style, previously we've been styling at the tag level, right? If I want to style in something with an individual ID, how do I do that? How do I target that ID in CSS? Yeah. Octothorpe. Yeah. Obi123 coming in with the right answer for their first time chat. Nice. Way to start it off. Yeah, snarf, and there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's all personal. It's all personal preference. Yep, nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so we're going to style our game container. Okay, And again, we're going to do a text align. I want all my text to be centered. It's text align center. We're going to do now. We're going to start getting into. We're going to start getting flexible here because essentially we're going to create all of our elements inside the game board, and we're going to make them sit in the appropriate positions by using flex. So inside of our game container, we're going to set the display to flex. Display flex. And I'm going to set the flex direction, and you're just going to have to trust me on this. And then after we populate it, I'll show you why we did this. So we're going to set the display to be flex, and we're setting the flex direction to column. Now you might think, wait, inside the box there's rows, right? Well, we'll get there. So flex direction is going to be column for inside of our game container. I'm going to give it a width of 75 VW. This will allow us to, setting it to a flexible unit such as VW will allow us to open the console, and it won't obscure anything that's on the screen. So so our game board will shrink when we open the console, and so we won't lose visibility. So that's why I'm using a flexible unit here. And I'm also going to give it a little margin. Margin is going to be 10 pixels, top and bottom, and auto for left and right. And what does auto do? When I use margin auto, what does that do? Yeah. It centers it, right? Yeah. So we want to center our game container. And also, I'm going to go ahead and put a border because that's what I do. And we're going to take the border off later on. Don't freak out. We're going to take the border off, but I just want to show you where all of these elements are going to sit once we populate the board. So border is going to be red just for now, and we'll take it off later. For those of you who know how I build things, we always do 2 pixel solid color borders until we're done building, and then we take all the borders off. All right. I'm going back through and making sure. Yeah, okay, cool. Making sure I didn't miss anybody's questions or anything in the chat there. Also, too, I missed a poll in our last. Oh, hydrate. Thank you. Yeah. I missed a poll in our last stream. So Brian, I think it was Brian with like a 1 in their name. Are you Brian? Are you here? Are you here tonight? I want to do your poll. It was like Bry1, Brian. Yeah, if you're here tonight, I want to do your poll, but I only want to do it when you're here because you spent your channel points on it. So, and I missed it last time. It was like toward the end. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to style the let's see, what was the next thing was it was the category row. So we're also going to style our category row, and just for reference, so you know what I'm going for here. The category row is essentially, save this. The category row is this row that only has the categories in it here at the top. And it's kind of separate because we want to be able to target this later and populate it with the various category titles, right? So we're going to style this row up top, and then we're going to style the clue board down below separately. Okay, so category row, Again, we're going to flex that. Oop. Display is going to be flex. And we're going to want to align item center. And we're going to give it a little bit more of a bottom margin so it's slightly separated from the clue boxes. Margin bottom, margin bottom 20 pixels. Okay, And then we're going to style the board where the clues are going to go. Going to see some 2 pixel solid border in the wild and be like, wait a minute, I know who wrote this. Oh yeah, and BW Dev, I did hydrate. I don't remember if I said that. I did hydrate. And thank you for the explanation of VW there, Rascal. That's very helpful. Yep. Always good to remind folks of the different types of units they can be using to do their styling, because they all have their uses, right? All right, so clue board. So that's where we're going to put the clues. Now, again, in the clue board, we're also going to do flex direction column again. And again, I'll get to why we're doing this in one particular order. Once we've populated the board, it'll be more obvious. Because if I tried to explain it now, you'd be like, what? And then the last 2 things we're going to style are going to be things that we actually don't exist yet. But we're going to go ahead and start and give them a little bit of styling now. So that way, once we use JavaScript to create them, you'll be able to see them on the board. So we're going to have a clue box. It's going to be a class. I'm using the dot to target it since it's a class. And this is actually going to be the box where the clues are going to sit. So on our board, it would be like these boxes here. So the boxes where the dollar amounts are. Now those don't exist yet. We're going to use JavaScript to create them. But I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of styling now so that when we do populate the board, you'll be able to see them. So we're going to flex these. The reason I'm doing that is so I can style their contents later. And we're going to skip a lot of this for now. We're going to give it a border of 2 pixels, solid green, and also too, I need to add borders to my rows here. Border 2 pixels, solid orange. And we're going to give the clue board the same thing. Border, let's see, 2 pixels, solid blue. And also I need to style another element that we are also going to be adding is going to be clue row. Display flex. And I'm going to add, this one's going to be orange as well. Okay. Let's see, clue boxes, background color. We're going to skip a lot of this, the more styling for now. We just want to build the basic board. I'm going to give it a border radius of 5 pixels, a margin of 5 pixels, and we're going to give it a height of 100 pixels. And then we're also going to give it a flex basis of 1. This is just basically saying it's going to take up 1 space on the board. And that's all we're going to do for now for that. We're going to add some more styling later, but I don't want to bore you guys too much. I think the rest of it we're going to wait on. This is enough to just to get the basic style of the board up and running. And then we'll go back and we'll actually add the Jeopardy styling a bit later. Okay, I'm going to go scroll back up through the chat here real quick. Yeah, we're going to break at 9, Chris. Yep. Chatty Bird, yeah, grid would probably be easier, but we haven't learned grid yet, so you get flex. Coding Rascal actually isn't a mod, but they are extremely helpful, and I value their contributions extremely highly. Rascal is literally like Rascal is the best. Clueboard actually doesn't need the display flex. It works without it. Oh, hey, BBRI and Brian. Good that you're here. I need to do your poll from last time. Thanks for coming. Let me know when you want me to do that. Your poll about coffee. I need to do that. I missed that at the last stream. Brian, yeah, I'm on Eastern time. Oh, we got hydrate and we got a posture check. Okay. I'm stretching while I'm grabbing my tea. So you get double duty there. Yeah. Yeah, TJ Khan. Yeah, I've actually messed with grid a little bit on my own. And you're right. It is super easy. It's just one of those things I don't want to get to the point where, like, a lot of the projects that I do here on stream are pretty complex already. And so I don't want to throw too many crazy out there concepts at you guys, because then it would just be too much, right? Like you wouldn't be able to follow it all. So I feel like I throw enough at you guys when I do my wild 3-4 hour streams, right? Uh, is my um, is my avatar? Are you talking about? Are you talking to me, Drink and Dive? Hey, Wisconsin, welcome. You don't want to throw us for a loop, yeah? I don't want to throw you for a loop. Yeah, drinking. My avatar is actually from Voltron, the Netflix series. If you haven't checked that out, it's a lot of fun. My avatar is the Green Lion pilot named Pidge, and she's great. She's my spirit animal. So yeah, it's Pidge. Okay, so this is all the HTML. Sorry, this is all the CSS we're going to do for now. So again, it's a natural point. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick commit push. We're gonna do more CSS later, but this should be good for now. And then git push. Pew. All done. Okay. Voltron, like the Pokemon? No, it's a separate series. It's about people who pilot giant robots that are shaped like lions and are super cool, and then they can all form together to form the big robot Voltron, and it carries a sword and it's super rad and it's all in space. And so that's just that combination of things is just the best thing in the world for me. So yeah, it's a great show. I kind of sound like her. Well, when I had short hair, I used to look like her as well. So yeah. Am I pushing this much in real life? No. I'm doing, I don't normally push, I normally just commit, which saves it to my local repository. But since I'm doing this on stream for you guys, I want you guys to be able to access what I'm doing. So I'm pushing more often. Yeah, Voltron Legendary Defender on Netflix. Yeah. Okay, so now let's get into the JavaScript. This is the part the part that I get excited about. All the rest of the stuff we were doing, that's just set up. That's just set up. Okay, so the first two things that we want to do before we even think about connecting to API or anything like that, we want to, oops, hang on, sorry, clicked in the wrong window there. We want to initialize the board. Gosh, I cannot spell. Initialize the game board on load, right? So on page load. We want to initialize the game board on page load. And we also, so we want to populate we want to show the category row and then load the game board and populate the dollar amounts. Because if I go back to my version and I reload the page, right? We can see as soon as I reload, all this stuff is pre-populated. I can't do anything with it yet, but it's all pre-populated. So that's what we want to happen. Right now, ours just looks like this, which isn't helping anyone, right? Like, what even is that? So we got some work to do. It's not bad though. All right, so I want to initialize the game board on load. So I am going to create a function called initBoard. And this is going to be what we use on page load to initialize the board. And I'm also immediately going to call that function too. So I want the function to run when the page loads. So I'm going to call it up here, and then we're going to define the function down here. Because if you recall, the way JavaScript works is that you can call a function before it's defined, right? So that's what we're going to do here. Yes, I'll say thank you for sharing the link to the GitHub there, Rascal for Salsade. Yep. Yeah, and Cardig, yeah, definitely give the Voltron a try. I felt like the first the first couple seasons were really good. There was a little bit of a lull like toward the end. There wasn't as good, but definitely, I mean, most of it is good. Goofer, only if it's a declaration. I'm not quite sure what you're asking there, but you can, as long as you've defined the function below, you can call it before, like in the sequence before it's defined. So we're going to initialize our row, and so we're going to initialize our game board. And so I'm just going to set up a variable here first. I'm going to set my board equal to the actual game board element in the DOM. So let board is going to be equal to document dot get element by ID clue board. Okay, so define that variable first. Now, what I essentially want to do here is I want to create all of those little boxes where all of those dollar amounts. So I want to generate the boxes and the dollar amounts inside of the boxes, and I want to turn those boxes into clickable, like essentially clickable buttons. They don't need to be actual buttons. They just need to be clickable, and they need to be listening for clicks. So I could, like I said earlier, I could go through and I could assign all of those manually. I could, build out all the HTML. I could hand code 36 event listeners. Or what could I do instead to generate all 36 of those boxes? Yeah, Rascal. Yeah, that remember that chessboard problem from the eloquent JavaScript that everybody's like, oh gosh. But this is coming up. Yeah, this has come up several times, using loops to generate objects into the HTML, right? And we did it in the eloquent JavaScript. We did it in our Wordle game to generate the boxes for the letters to go into. And we're going to do the exact same thing here to generate the Jeopardy board with all the clues and all the dollar values without us having to hand code each one. Okay, so essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate, what is it? Is it 5 rows or 6 rows? Well, 5 rows of clues. 5 rows of clues with a category row up top. So we're going to do the category row separately, but we're going to generate 5 rows, then place 6 boxes in each row. Now, if I want to generate 5 rows and then nest 6 boxes inside of each rows, how would I do that? Oh, and GMAC actually actually answered the question. Yeah, we're going to use a nested loop in order to do this. In order to first generate our 5 rows and then nest 6 boxes in each row. Now, you might say, why would we want to do that? Why wouldn't we just generate all of the boxes. Why bother putting them in rows? Well, if you remember, the way a Jeopardy board is laid out, if I go back to my finished version here, the way a Jeopardy board is laid out, there's the same dollar amount going horizontally across each row, right? So we're going to have to, either way, we're going to have to use a nested loop in order to generate this dollar amount and get the right dollar amount in the right boxes. So we might as well just help organize things by putting our boxes in actual rows. So, and this will make more sense as we go. But so we're going to do a for loop. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to generate our rows. So we're going to do a standard for loop, not making things very complicated here. I equals 0 for I less than 5, I plus plus. Okay. And we're gonna declare a new variable called row, and we're gonna set that equal to document. Now, if I want to create, I'm going to use divs here because they're basically little stylistic elements. If I want to create a div in JavaScript, what do I say? What do I use here? Yeah, y'all got it. Yep. Yeah, QuazeDev coming in hot there with their first chat and a right answer. Awesome. Good to have you, QuazeDev. All right, so document, yes, create element, right? We want to create a div, and this is going to create an HTML div tag wherever we tell it to. Okay, so we've got that now. We've got that stored in a variable called row. And then we're also going to declare the dollar value that we want to put inside of each box in the row. So let box value equals, now, if for those of you who are very familiar with Jeopardy, you might say, well, but Mayan Wolf, Jeopardy has 2 rounds and they have different different dollar values for each round. Well, we're only doing 1 round. I'm not getting fancy here. So we're just gonna do the round where it starts at $200 and it goes up to $1,000. So that's what we're gonna do. So you can see that as we go vertically down each row, there are multiples of 200, right? So that gives us something to work with when we want to increment our dollar value between rows. No daily doubles. Yeah, unfortunately, no. That's you. If you do that, if you get it working with all the rules of Jeopardy, man, I will bake you cookies and mail them to you or something. I don't know. That would be amazing. Yeah. So what can we say? So let's think about this, right? So we know that our first row is going to have a dollar value of 200, but we need to think that I'm going to be looping through all the rows, right? So what could I say? How could I make this increment so that it gives me the correct dollar value for each row? It's going to be 200 times something, but what would I say? Anybody, any guesses? So for each I value, right, remember I starts at 0. It doesn't have to, but we're making it hard on ourselves, right? We could start I at 1, but I'm making it harder on you. Oh, yeah. MS Jesus coming in with the right answer. Yeah, it's going to be I plus 1. Yeah, so if we think about this, for the first row, it's going to be 200 times, woo, thank you for the bits. Much appreciated. So the first row is going to be 200 times 0 plus 1, right? So that'll be 200. Second row is going to be 200 times 1 plus 1 is 2, so 400. So it's going to work for each row. It's going to be the right value. Not sure if it's an actual person or a bot, but thanks, Coiled Twitch Bot, for the bits. Okay. All right, and so the last thing we need to do is for our new element that we've just created, our new div, our new row div, we're going to give it a class name. So I'm going to set row dot class name equals clue row. Okay, now you might say, So we're actually done with the outer loop. Now you might say, but we haven't done anything with box value yet. We haven't, but we're not gonna do anything with box value yet, because remember, for our outer loop, all we're doing is we're building the row. We haven't built the boxes yet. So we're gonna hold this. We're gonna hold on to this box value, and we're gonna assign it later. So I know it's 9 o'clock. We're gonna finish this loop. We're gonna finish this nested loop. We're gonna run it. We're gonna see that it works, and then after the break, we're gonna come back and we're gonna look at it again, and we're gonna explain why it works. Okay, so now we're gonna do the inner part of the loop. Now, if we recall, there were 6 boxes on each row, right? So we're going to say let j equals 0. Now, you could use whatever you wanted here. I'm just using j. J less than 6 and j plus plus. Oops, capital J needs to be lowercase. There we go. And yep, that's good. Okay, so now we're gonna create a new div. We're gonna create 6 smaller divs inside of each row, and those are gonna be our boxes. So we're gonna say let box equals document dot create element, and we're gonna create divs. Okay, and we're gonna give our boxes a class name of ClueBox. This is going to help attach it to that styling that we created earlier. It's going to automatically assign that styling to the box. Remember, back in our CSS, we created clue row and clue box, and we created some styling for those, even though they didn't exist yet. Well, now, as soon as our JavaScript generates those items and assigns that class name, the CSS is going to be applied, the styling is going to be applied to those items. So we've created our clue box, we give it a class name. Yeah. And then now I want to go ahead and add this box value, this dollar value, to the inside of my box. So does anybody know how I can take something like a div or a section and I can add some text into the inside of that div or section? How would I do that? What would I use? Oh, hey, Cranberry. Oh, no problem. You didn't miss too much. Hey, Cranberry, if you're able to stick around, someone can share the GitHub link with you. Oh yeah, Rascal did already there. Yeah, and you can grab it from the GitHub. Oh, Sierra, welcome. Welcome to 100 Devs. Good to have you. Oh yeah, we got a lot of folks guessing inner text, text node, inner text. Yeah, go out. So like saying element, whatever you want that to be. So like, for example, here we're essentially saying document dot create element div dot class name equals whatever. That will both create the tag, and it will also give it a class name of ClueBox. And we'll look at the DOM. We'll look at the console once we generate this, and I'll show you that all that stuff has been applied dynamically using our JavaScript. So yeah, we've got a bunch of different guesses here, but we're actually going to use what Goofer suggested. We are going to use, probably the simplest is going to be just box dot text content, and then we can set that to whatever we want. And so in this case, I want it to be the box value with a $sign. So I'm going to just say $sign, and I'm going to concatenate, my favorite word, box value. And what that'll do is it creates our div. It gives it a class name of ClueBox, and it literally puts the word whatever we put here. That'll be the text content of the box. So we don't even need to do like inner text or anything like that. We're just using text content, and that is something that is I think new with whatever the current version of JavaScript is. I think that's a new ES6 feature for JavaScript. So you don't have to do, like, you can do, if you want backwards compatibility, You could do this instead. I'm just going to paste this in so I don't have to type it out. If you want backwards compatibility with like older versions of Internet Explorer, you could do this. You could say, this. You could say box.append child, document.create text node, and all. You could say all of this, which works with like older versions of browsers and that kind of thing. That's up to you. I'm going to leave it in there. I'm going to leave it commented out. So that way, if for some reason text content isn't working for you, you can use append child text node instead. And yeah, coding JSchool. Yeah, you could use the template literal format instead. But you could see like just writing that out, having the $2 next to each other in that format looks kind of confusing, just in my opinion. Like it's just visually confusing, right? So in this case, since this is such a simple string, I decided to use the traditional concatenate because this is much easier to read. You can look at this immediately and just see like, oh yeah, I know what this is trying to do, right? Yeah. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that coding. Yeah. All right. So that's going to do that. And we're almost done with this, I promise. Then we'll have our break. And box value. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to add an event listener to our box, right? Because we want it to do something. We want it to do something when we click on it. So we're going to say box dot add event listener. And we want it to fire on a click. And we want it to do something. So we haven't written this function yet. So we're going to say do something. We'll change that later. Actually, I need to do this as a multi-line here. Do something. We'll fill that in later. And I have an extra parameter here, but I honestly don't remember what it does. What does this do? False does what? Oh, mouse event. Options. Wait, options sets listener specific options. Infection 2. Okay, well, I set it to false, so I'll just assume that's what I need. Oh, and actually, it's not going to like that I have a comment in there, so we're just going to do this. Eventually we're gonna have a function called get clue, and that's what we're gonna put in there. So, spoiler alert. All right, so we've added our. Oh, good evening, Ryan. Hello, welcome. All right, so we've added our event listener, right? And so what we've done, right, is we've created a div, and we're going to be placing it inside of a row. But in order for in the HTML for things to line up and be nested up properly, we have to essentially tell the JavaScript to put our box that we've just created to put our box inside of the row. Now, if I want to do that, if I want to nest the box inside of the row, how would I tell the JavaScript to do that? What would I use? You don't have to tell me the exact phrasing, but just in general, does anybody know how do I attach a box to the row where it's going to be sitting? I'd like to phone a friend. Wrong game show there, but good try. Yeah, append child, right? So we're going to say row dot append child box. Yep. So what this is going to do is for each box we create, it's going to put it into its parent row. Yeah. And then the very last thing we need to do to make this loop work is we need to say, so what we do here is we generate 6 boxes, boop, 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 boop. We put them inside of a row, and then we go to the next row, and we generate 6 more boxes, and we put them inside that row, blah, 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 blah. So when we're done, we'll have 5 rows, each with 6 boxes in it. And the very last thing we need to do is we need to attach each row that we've created. We need to attach it to the game board. We need to nest it inside of the game board itself. So the very last thing we need to do is say board.append child row. So this is taking all the rows that we made and it's putting them inside the game board. So we'll look at that. We'll look at the HTML inside of the console, and it'll be much clearer what we've done. This is Jeopardy. Should ask the audience. Yeah, I ask you guys stuff all the time, don't I? Oh yeah, Warzone. You said you made a Monopoly board. Yeah, that's a hard one, isn't it? Because of the way that it doesn't go in like necessarily like it goes counterclockwise, right? Like around the board, and there's a big empty space in the middle. Or yeah, clockwise or counterclockwise, I forget. Yeah. Could you do document create element div dot class name dot yeah, I mean, you could put it all together. You could put it all on one giant line, right? So you could chain these together. You could say document dot create element div dot class name. Um, but I really think that well, I'm not sure if you could because you got to set these equal. But I don't know. I just feel like this is easier to read again, you know. But yeah, you can chain a lot of this stuff together. I always just do it this way though. It's easier to follow that way. All right, so we've written this, and now let's call it and see if it works, and then we'll have a break. Okay, so we've written our init board. Now let's see. It should call automatically, right? Because we set it to call. So let's see what we get. Oh, hang on. Game container, category clue board. Should go. Maybe not. Oh yeah, get clue is something we haven't written yet. Yeah, I tried to put a comment in there, but it wouldn't let me. So okay, let's try it. See what went wrong. Oh no, not working. Okay, well that's all right. We'll figure it out. We'll take a break and we'll come back to it and we will figure it out. Okay. Oh, is that because it doesn't like get clue? It did an error out. I should have checked for errors in the console. I didn't check for errors. Let's look and see. Let's see if it doesn't like get clue. Yeah, okay, we've got an error here. I bet it's get clue. It doesn't like get clue. Yeah, okay, that's why it didn't work. That's all right. We'll just here, we'll just do this. We'll say get clue, define it real quick, and we'll say console log have a nice day, and set that up as a function. There we go. That should help. Hey, check it. Yeah. Foster check. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we didn't have to add the event listener, but instead I just set up a dummy function. Yeah. All right, I'll hydrate. Looks dope. I'm glad we got that working. So we'll take our break now. We'll come back after the break and we will review what happened, what we did there, and then we'll move on. All right. Okay. So gonna get a timer going here. Let's do 5 minutes. Is 5 minutes okay? And we'll also do while we're on break there too, and while folks are going on break, I'm also going to do the poll for Brian that I missed last time. Oh yeah, and I'll go ahead and push as well. Let's do a git add, and feel free to go on break. You can get up now. You'll get a couple extra seconds on the timer. Get up and stretch and do all that stuff. Git commit. Oops. Woo. Git commit. M is going to be initial board created. Okay. And git push. All right, there you go. All right, and go. Yeah, and thanks, Rascal, for sharing that again. Um, go to that URL, and you should have all the most up-to-date code. Redev, that's awesome. Border 1 pixel solid red in CSS is the console log of JavaScript. Yeah, they're almost right, except it should be 2 pixels. 2 pixels is way better than 1 pixel solid red. Go feed kids and cats and goldfish and yeah, all that good stuff. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you can't hear the fan. Yeah, it's pretty quiet today. As long as I don't touch anything. I'm in perfect right now. My laptop is in perfect equilibrium. The universe is in harmony. I can't touch anything. I can't bump the table. Can't touch anything. Okay, while folks are coming back, I'm going to go ahead and also set up the poll. I'm hoping Brian is still here. Um, going to do a poll. And the poll was light roast or dark. Oh, good, Brian. Yeah, I believe your poll question was, and feel free to change it if you want. I believe your poll question was light roast or dark roast coffee. I'm going to do a new poll here. Okay. Do you prefer light roast or dark roast coffee? Yeah. G Machina, yeah, if you take this project and you make it your own, I think this might be a cool one to have on your portfolio. I mean, it shows that you can use APIs, it shows that you can do creative things with them. It shows that we're going to set up some pretty complex rules. This is going to be, a not trivial use of an API. So um, I think this might be a good one for you to have, as long as you make it your own, right? And you could add some animations like flips. You can make the boxes flip over to show the questions. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could do with this. All right, so we're going to start a 2-minute poll. Just while I'm going to keep talking, but the poll is going to be at the top of the chat, so you can click on it to enter the poll. So the question was, do you prefer light roast or dark roast coffee? Submitted by Brian. And I'm going to start the poll. Okay, so yeah, you can click on it there at the top of the chat, and enter your thoughts there, and choose your favorite roast there. Okay, so right before the break, we saw that our board is actually looking pretty good. We were able to populate the board with all of the squares, and medium roast gang. Yeah, you're adding the oh, Edward, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Wow. Thank you so much. Great to have you here. Pushing this project to your projects, just pushing the less impressive ones lower down the list. Yeah. That's not a bad idea. Okay. So now let's look at this again, and we'll just review, for those of you who aren't quite sure what we did here to make this work. We'll just go over it again here briefly. So what did we do here? Essentially, we have two loops. We have an outer loop and we have an inner loop. Now, what happens is the outer loop runs one time and it creates a row. And it gives it a class name of clue row. And then after the loop runs once, after this outer loop only runs one time, then the inner loop runs a full 6 times. It loops around 6 times. And for each time it runs, it creates a clue box, like a box where we're going to put that dollar amount, creates a clue box, and it gives it a class name of clue box. And inside of it, it puts the appropriate dollar value for that row, whatever that box value was that we set up here in the outer loop. And then it adds an event listener, and it nests the box inside of the parent row. And then the whole thing adds the row that we've just created, it adds it to the game board container. Oh, look at that. Dark Roast won the poll. Let's view the results. Okay. Yep, Dark Roast won by 56%. Yeah. Only got 35 votes, though. Come on. Need more audience participation. But still, Dark Roast is good. I don't know which one I prefer. Oh, Timmy C, light roast, more caffeine. That's true, Timmy. Yeah. If you want a better caffeine buzz, you got to go for that light roast. No roast, raw. Okay. So I actually had a friend that I knew in college, and oh my gosh, she was so smart. Like, she still is so smart. Like, just absolutely, like, super, super smart, incredible in all of their classes. And they were in they were like in biomed and like pre-med and like all these super complicated, high level, really intensive classes. And so they would literally eat espresso covered coffee beans like they were popcorn, like just chowing them down, these espresso covered coffee beans, and just constant caffeine buzz. They were wired, man. And then by their senior year, they actually had to stop because they were getting too much caffeine. Just constant caffeine is not good for you. So that level of it. Stinky says, I'm just here coding a stopwatch with a ding sound. Hey, that's cool. Stopwatches are useful. Chocolate covered espresso beans are my frenemies. Okay, so anyway, so yeah, what we've done is essentially this loop runs once, it generates a row, and then inside of each row, it generates 6 boxes, adds the boxes to the row, then adds the row to the game board. And then that generates the whole board for us in one fell swoop. And yeah, so that's all that does. And now the next thing we're actually going to do is we're going to generate our category row. So if you remember, our game board has all these clue boxes, but then above it we actually have we're going to put in a new function here. Function, what did I call it in my notes? What did I call it? I called it init cat row. So we ought to also just initialize a single row for all of our category items. So initialize cat row. And this is going to be very, very, very similar to the outer row, to the outer loop of this function. So very similar. And essentially we can copy a lot of these elements. So I'm just going to grab this. Oops, come on. There we go. And I'm going to say let cat row equal the item with the ID of category row. And then basically all I want to do is it's going to be similar to the inner loop. I'm sorry. Inside of this, just the single row, I want to generate 6 boxes. So I can kind of just grab this and we'll just simplify it down a little bit. Grab this. Drop that in there. I want to generate 6 boxes. And I'm going to change these J's to I's just to be pedantic. And I just want to create a box, a div box. I want to give it a class name of category box. And also I want to keep that same class name of clue box because that has some initial styling that we'll need. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm giving it 2 class names. I'm giving it a class name of clue box to give it the same styling as the other boxes that we created down here. But then it's also going to have just a little bit of its own special styling, and that's going to be in a different class called category box. So we can stack classes to stack our styling a little bit. And then the only other thing I need is just to attach the box to the row that it's in. So I'm just going to say cat row append child box. So what this is going to do is going to create a single row. Well, we've already created the row that it's going to be in. We put that in our HTML. So if you look at the HTML, we set up a row called category row up here. We set up this row called category row, and all we want to do is we want to put 6 boxes in it. So we just loop through, we generate 6 boxes, we give them a couple class names, and we attach them to the row. That's all. In the military, we used to use the Folgers and MREs like dip to stay awake. Wow. Lots of coffee stories. Y'all like coffee, it looks like. Man. Okay, and I just need my closing brackets here. And this should work as well. So we'll go ahead and we're going to call both of these. So we're going to call our, when the page loads, we want to call init cat row and init board. So now let's see, let's run this and let's see what we get. Boop. Hey, look at that. We get our nice row up top for all of our category boxes. And then we put a margin in between the two. So we've got a nice little margin there that separates the categories from the game board. And then down below, we've got our nice game board. So that's starting to come together, isn't it? Chocolate covered espresso beans that make your eyes twitchy. Not a row of cats. Yeah, I wish it was a row of cats, right? Oh, that's okay, Salsade. I know we're doing a lot of we're combining CSS and JavaScript here, and we're combining HTML and JavaScript here, which can be kind of wild the first time that you look at it. But let's take a look now that we've generated our board. Let's inspect it and let's see what we have here. so we can get a better idea of what we did. So inside of our body, if you recall, in our actual in our HTML, we only had a little bit of HTML that we actually wrote out, right? We wrote a game container, we wrote a row for our categories, and then we wrote another section called clue board, which is going to hold everything else, right? So just basically just, 3 items, right? A container and then 2 nested sections inside. Now, if we look at what actually got written to the DOM, we can see that we still have our game container here, and it contains our category row and our clue board. But now inside of the category row, we have 6 boxes, each with those 2 classes that we assigned, clue box and category box. And then we also have 5 clue rows. And inside each of those, we have our clue boxes with the appropriate dollar amount. Hey, Silent, how's it going? This is vanilla. Hey, Sudden Gun, welcome, welcome. This is vanilla JavaScript. Yeah, we're not using any anything fancy here. Hey, Sudden Gun, you can grab the CSS from my GitHub. It is current as of the last break. So yeah, Rascal2 just shared the GitHub link. And so you can go there and go to the CSS file and you can grab the CSS from there. Yep, hit that up. And we're going to keep updating it throughout the stream, so you'll be current on the code. Yeah, Mr. and Mavi, you could pass an image into those cards instead of dollar values. You could put an image in there and make it be cats if you wanted. Why did we add category box? Well, but that's because we're going to go back and we're going to do a little bit of more. We're going to do a little bit of additional styling in the CSS. Now that we've gotten the initial layout working, we want to actually make this look like a Jeopardy board, right? We want to make it look like the real thing or closer to it. I'm no stylist, but we want to make it look more like this. So we're gonna, now that we've actually got the framework working, we're gonna add a little bit of additional styling. Okay, so we're good to go there. Oh, hey, Oregon Curtis. Thank you for the raid, friend. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Much appreciated. Hi, folks. We're building a Jeopardy game. Yeah, we're going to use an API to build a fully functioning Jeopardy game with the questions and the answers and everything. It's going to be rad. All right, so I'm going to go back here. So we've created our category row, we've created our board. Now we're going to add a little bit of additional styling in our CSS. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to go ahead and also just do a commit and push real quick. This is way more often than I would actually be doing this in real life, but I want you all to be able to keep up. So git add. When was the last time I pushed? Well, whatever, doesn't matter. Loop's done. All right, there you go. Okay, so there's no such thing as too much commitment. I'm afraid of commitment. No. All right, we're gonna add a little. Now we're gonna actually start to style this a little bit so that it looks more like an actual Jeopardy board. Okay, so got the body styling there. I'm just seeing what I'm missing. Did button, did the span. It's all good. Game container. We're gonna go ahead and take the border off of our game container here. That'll look better without it. Got the flex, all the flex stuff set up. Going to take the border off of our rows. Take the border off of our clue board. Take the border off of our clue row. And now where we're going to do the most styling, additional styling, is actually on our clue box. Yeah, thanks again for the raid, Oregon. Much appreciated. Okay, so in our clue box, we're going to do a little bit of alignment and justifying of things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say align items. And I'm going to say align items center. Now, I'm also going to say justify content center. Does anybody know, tough question, but does anybody know the difference between align items and justify content? If I say center for both of those, what does that do? Yeah. Yeah, you guys got it. Exactly. Yep. So align works vertical, and justify is horizontal. Exactamundo. Yep. All right, and then we're also going to change our border color. We're going to make it white. Or not blue. Why did I type blue? I said white, type blue. The background color for each of our boxes is going to be blue. Okay, and then our font color is going to be white. And we got our border radius, we got our margin. Gonna pump up the font size a little bit. Say 2 rem. Yeah, we'll do 2 rem. And font weight. It's gonna be bold. Got our height, got our flex. And then we're also just gonna do we're also going to do, so in real life Jeopardy, if you guys have ever seen it before, like all of the clues, when they flip over and they show you the answer and they show you the question, all of the clues are always in uppercase. So if I wanted to always make sure that whatever text I display, no matter where it comes from or how it looks initially, if I wanted to make sure that all the text displays as uppercase, how would I do that? Anybody know? Oh, silent. Good. I'm glad that helped you out. Yeah. Yeah. Zatane coming in with that first time chat. That's right. We're going to do text transform. Yep. Y'all got it. Uppercase. Okay. Yep. So now if I go ahead and save this, let's take another look and we'll look back. Let's look back at our result and let's see how things look now. Oh, hey, check it. Look at that. That looks way better, doesn't it? Yeah. That's looking like a Jeopardy board now. Okay. Much better. Yep, indeed. Noise. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're also going to add that that category box. So we added that that mystery class that we hadn't defined yet. Where we added that to the boxes in our category row, and so we're also going to style that as well. So we're going to say category box is going to have a font size. And the only reason we're doing this is because I noticed that when the categories populate, sometimes they're kind of long, they're kind of wordy. And if the font is too big, then they spill out of the boxes and it just doesn't, or the boxes flex and they distort the rows. And so I'm just taking the font size down a little bit. I can take it down to like 0.8 rem. That should be good. And I'm also going to have a little bit of an extra line height. That's just an aesthetic thing. You don't have to do it. It just makes it look nicer in the box. So, yeah. And the very last thing we're going to define, and then we're going to be totally done with our CSS, is we're going to create a new class that we're going to define later. But it's really just going to do one thing. So after a box is clicked, so after if somebody clicks on a box, one of our dollar value boxes, and it shows like, and so they click on a box like this. We're gonna go back to the finished version. Click on a box. Wait, hang on. I got to start a new game. Sorry. Boop. There we go. After we answer a question. Oh, is this going to be a Midsummer Night's Dream? A Midsummer Night's Dream. Let me guess that. Yay! All right. So Midsummer Night's Dream. Now you notice that the font size needs to be smaller so that the answer can actually fit in the box. So that's all we're doing there. We're just defining that class for later. Click box. Font size is going to be 1 rem. Let's make it smaller. Okay, now we're done. Are you guys impressed how I can just like casually bust out the Shakespeare knowledge? Like okay, we'll go ahead and do another commit and push. Old Billy Shakes. Silent Spile, I'll answer that question in just a second. All right. There you go. So now we're done with our HTML. We are done with our CSS. Now we can actually make the game work. Cool beans. Okay, so we've got it so the game board will initialize whenever the page loads. And so it's all ready for us to actually start hooking it up to the API to start adding content. So let's do it. So let's talk about the API that we're going to use. So the API that we're going to use is something called jservice.io. And actually, sorry, Silent, let me answer your question. So Silent asked, why do I use rem instead of percentages? Well, rem is really useful because it takes its cues from whatever default font size that whatever default font size that you're using. So every single item that uses rem as a unit of measurement will trigger off of the default font size. So let's say that I am maybe using some sort of an accessibility tool to view the web page that makes my font size much bigger. In that case, every single font size on my page, if I use rem, every single font size on the page will be much larger for me. Rather than declaring it in pixels or something that's going to trigger like just off of the parent, like M or something like that. If I use rem, all I need to do is change one single font size, and every other font size on the page will adjust itself to be larger or smaller depending on that unit. Yeah, so that's why rem is good. And you can also, that can also help you with media queries as well. So let's say I have very large fonts that display on like large high resolution monitors, but I don't want giant fonts on like a mobile screen, right? On like a phone screen. So in my media query, I can just adjust my rem down to, whatever, my rem unit, my default font size down to whatever, and all of my rems will then adjust themselves down based on the default font size. Yeah. Oh, stretch. Okay, got it. Yep. Ooh, thank you. Stretching. That's dope. Yeah. Yeah, I use REMs almost exclusively now, unless I have something like a button that I always want the font size to stay the same, no matter whether I'm on browser or mobile. There's still definitely use cases for like using pixel units and static units, especially in buttons or things that you just want to always be the same size no matter what. Yeah. So it's just a judgment call, really, whether you want to use a flexible unit or a static unit. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the API that we're going to use today. We are going to use something called jservice.io, and I will give you guys this URL because it is fun as heck to mess with once you figure out how to use it. Let me get back to where's my, hang on. Where is it? I always lose track of my windows. Here it is. Found it. All right. Yeah, so jservice.io, and I'll put the URL. Yeah, and Rascal just shared it as well. This is jservice.io. um, and it allows you essentially to access a massive database of 150, almost 157,000 Jeopardy questions. It gives you the question, it gives you the answer, it gives you the category, it gives you the dollar value, it gives you the when it aired, it gives you all sorts of information about the question, and you can access it all from this API. It's rad. Um, I love it. Yeah, it's so cool. The only thing is, it took me like somebody was talking earlier about how you go into like the coding like flow and you can just lose like hours. Yeah, I lost hours on this API. Let me tell you. I don't even want to tell you how much time I spent just like messing around with this, trying to figure out because the actual like documentation, like kind of like Leon was saying in class, during the last class, he was like, yeah, sometimes the documentation isn't very good. Yeah, this was some rough documentation to figure out. So, um, yeah, yeah, it is pretty dope, isn't it? Yep. So what you can do is I'll just give you an example. So just take the jservice.io URL and let's say you want a random question. So I can just copy this and I can append it to the end of the URL. Whoops, hang on, sorry. There we go. API random. Do that. And you can see what I get back is I get back a random question. And it gives me all this, information about it, right? And it gives me like the category and the question and the answer and how many clues are in the category and all this stuff and the air date when it aired, like this question aired in 2013. So you can do that to get just a random question, but the challenge comes when you actually want to create a structured game board with a certain set of questions in each category. So when you try to get beyond the random or single questions, it becomes a little bit more complicated. This is fun. Yeah. And so you can click this button here to just generate a random question. But if you actually want to make a functional game, it gets a little wilder. So it gives you more information on the actual how to use the API here. But the challenge is it doesn't really show you how to structure your URL to generate what you want. So for example, let's just say that I want to get back like a category with a certain ID. So, okay, so I go down here to the category section, right? And so I say jservice.io, okay, slash API slash category. And you can see it's giving me away here. My autocomplete is giving me away. But in the actual documentation, it just says options ID int. It doesn't tell you how to actually build the URL. So I had to trial and error this nonsense until I actually figured out how to structure my URL. Now my Google history is giving me away here, but turns out if you want to target a specific, like if you want to target something specific, you have to say category, question mark, ampersand, and then give the criteria. So ID equals, yeah, we'll just do ID equals 18,000. So, and that is not made obvious anywhere in this documentation. So, but if we do that, we get back a category, like basically everything in this category with the ID of 18,000. So the category, the title is the Reagan Library. And then it gives you back all the clues as well. But yeah, so if you guys are trying to, how did I figure that out? I'll tell you what I did is so they give you a list of like projects that this on the Git, I think it's on the GitHub. There's like an actual list of the projects that this API has been a part of. And I went and I looked at their GitHub and I saw how they were using the URL. I literally went into other people's GitHubs and was like, how the frick do I actually use these stupid URLs after spending like 2 hours on it? And I managed to find some examples, and that was enough to get me where I needed to build my own URLs. Zernax asks, what JavaScript framework or library do you recommend for a beginner that wants to get a job ASAP? Well, we actually haven't really started using any specific like libraries. We're just using vanilla JavaScript. And I'm new to JavaScript as well. So I don't know that I'm particularly qualified to speak on that. I am still learning JavaScript along with everybody else in this cohort. So, I mean, I would say just as long as you know the fundamentals of JavaScript, I mean, that's a good start. We're going to start later on. We're going to start getting into Node and React and more backend stuff in this cohort. But I'll let others speak to that if they want to, speak up on those with more knowledge if they want to say something about that. The API is formatted in the form of a question. Yeah, that's kind of what it seems like, right? Reverse engineering. Yeah. Goofer asked, did I do any programming before JavaScript? Yes, I did. My day job is I'm a SQL developer. SQL is a database language. It's very, 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 very different from JavaScript and HTML and CSS. I'd never used HTML, CSS, or JavaScript before this cohort. But I do, like I said, I do use SQL in my day job. But if you look it up, it's a very different sort of language. It's a declarative language, so you structure your queries very differently. The Born says, what is give me 2 hours of my life back trying to understand your API? Yes, that's basically how I felt when I was trying to figure this stupid thing out. Yeah, like I said, and that's kind of what Leon was saying about though, is right. You have to manage your frustration, because boy was I frustrated. You have to manage your frustration. You have to figure out how to find your resources, right? So I went to GitHub, and I think I was like, I think in the README. So I went down here to where JService is used. I went down to JService in the wild, and I just looked at these and I found their GitHubs, and I figured out how they were using the URL. And then I figured out that's how I figured out how to structure my URL. But anywho, so essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting, we want random categories, right? To populate our game board, we want to generate, each time that button is clicked to create a new game, we want to generate random categories with essentially enough clues to populate the rest of the board, right? So we're going to need the categories and the clues within them to match up with these dollar amounts. So each time I click start new game, I want to hit that API, I want to get back categories, and I want to get back clues. Okay? So that's what we need to do. So we're going to structure our URL like we did for when we did our test just now. So we did API / category, and then we're going to make that ID be a random number because we want random categories. Hope one day to see me connect HTML, CSS, or JavaScript to retrieving data from MySQL or SQL or something. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be getting into databases here pretty soon, I'm sure. So we'll be doing some database diving, I'm sure. Okay, so let's go back to our JavaScript, and we will start hitting this API. All right, so we're not ready for that get clue function yet. In order to get the clue, we first need to have the data from the API. So we're going to make a function called build categories. What this is going to do is it's going to populate out it's going to hit the API. It's going to grab back the categories and all the clues inside of them. And it's going to build out the category row at the very top of our Jeopardy board. Build categories. Okay. So we are going to do some fetching. So I'll say, yeah, if you look on my Twitch homepage, so go to my Twitch channel homepage, I have a schedule, and that schedule stays pretty consistent. I mean, I've been doing Wednesdays and Sundays now for like the last month or so. So just check my schedule. That should be accurate for you. The only time I've deviated from it is when I did my first stream as part of the stream team. And I think Leon actually got the time wrong on the slide. And so I was just like, all right, well, guess I'm streaming at whatever time Leon said. So that's the only time I've really deviated from it. Fought with my terminal the first 2 hours of this, but finally figured it out. Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some fetching. So we're going to say, and here, I'm just going to talk to you about my philosophy with this, right? So we have a game board, and that game board has 36 total squares on it, right? And we, at the top, we have all the categories, and in the bottom, we have all the clues. And so potentially, I could structure this so that every time I populate a category, or every time I click on anything on the game board, I'm hitting the API. I could make it so that we have to hit this API 36 times for every single game. And if I click reset game, then that's another 36 hits. I don't want to do that because I don't want to essentially overload the API. I don't want to essentially potentially get like timed out for too much spamming. So I want to make this a little bit easier on the API and only essentially do one round of hits and then store the data that I've gotten back and use it whenever I need it until I decide to start a new game. So I don't want to hit it, a bajillion times. Born Cat asks, "Is there a Rascal One?" Oh yeah, we don't say that name. Okay. All right, so we're going to do 6 initial hits. We're going to store those hits in an array, and then we're going to use that array for the whole rest of the code. So let's do it. Const. We're going to do 6 hits, fetch request 1 is going to be equal to a fetch, and we're going to hit the URL. So I'm going to copy in the URL, and then we'll see what it's doing here. Okay, so we're hitting jservice.io/API/category, and then what we want to do is we want to grab a random category. And we're going to do this 6 times to get 6 random categories. Okay, good night, Snarf. Sergio, where are you going to save it? Local storage. We're going to end up saving this in a global variable. We try to avoid global variables, but in this case, I kind of needed one. We're going to save it in a global variable, and we're going to use that later. It doesn't even need to be in local storage. This doesn't need to persist between multiple sessions. You can make it so it does, but in this case, we're not going to do that. But yeah, you can certainly make a version that does. So we're going to do a fetch. We're going to set we're going to take the result and we're going to parse it as JSON. Oops. So essentially all we're doing is we're hitting the URL, we're getting the result back, and we're parsing the result as JSON. Okay. Let's see, did I miss a parenthesis there? Oh yeah, I got one too many parentheses. There we go. All right, so hit the result, parse it as JSON, and then we're going to store it in this fetch request 1 variable. Okay, and you might say, well, where's randint? Well, we're going to declare randint here in just a second. Actually, we can go ahead and declare it now. That's just going to be a little function, and all it's going to do is it's going to generate a random number for us. Our function of randint is just going to do our classic give me a random integer. And that's just so I don't have to type out the whole random number generator every single time. And we should know this by now, right? You should know this. You should know what the sequence is doing. It's generating a random number. It is essentially what we're doing is we're generating a random number between 1 and this value right here. Because I checked. You guys are gonna love me for this. I checked to see what the highest value, what the highest ID category is, and it is 18,418. I figured it out. That's the, that's the maximum ID value for the categories. So this will give us the total run of all possible categories. How did I figure that out? By hitting this URL with higher and higher category numbers until I didn't get a valid value back. Manually, brute force. Yeah. So that's going to give us a random integer for our each fetch. And so essentially, we're just going to do this. I was definitely studying that document. Yeah, I studied the documentation, banged my head against the desk, and then just brute forced it. Yeah. Okay, so then we're just going to do 6 fetches here. And all these fetches are going to be the same, but we're going to assign them to a different variable each time. Now, you're saying, well, you're probably saying, well, why wouldn't you loop this? And that's just because I just couldn't get a loop that worked the way I wanted it to. And because there's all sorts of considerations when you're hitting APIs. You have things like promises and that kind of thing that I just don't fully understand yet. So we're going to do six independent fetches, and then we won't have to do this again. This function only has to run once, so it's not that much of a hardship. All we're doing is we're hitting the API 6 times, and we are assigning them to 6 individual variables, and then we'll have that forever. So it's all good. Not a big deal. It's not like we're running this 36 times, right? Just 6, and then we're done. Okay, so that's the hard part. +1 to determination. So I'm basically on a computer 24/7. Feels like it sometimes, yeah. I work at a computer all day for my day job. I get off work, I try to do something fun, and then I come back and I'm at my personal computer doing this kind of thing. So yeah. It's a wonder I still have retinas in my eyeballs. All right, so we've got our 6 fetches done. And then what we're going to do is we're going to assign those. Essentially, we're going to take all the JSON, all those JSON messages that we got back from our API. We're going to take those and we're going to stuff them in an array. And then we'll console log this array to show you what it looks like. But yeah, we're just gonna create a big old array. We're gonna stuff all the results in it, and then we're gonna use that array for the whole rest of the code. Clargle, as a Jeopardy fan and engineer, you love this project? Oh, good. I was saying earlier how much I love Jeopardy. So, yeah. API going to be feeling used after the hitting and quitting. Yeah. So but hitting it 6 times is much better than spamming it 36 times, right? So we're just trying to reduce the number of hits. Yeah, looping with promise without async await can be an experience depending if you're trying to do it. Yeah, so, and Rascal, believe me, I tried to get async await working. I'm just not familiar with enough with it yet, right? It's just not something we've covered. And I spent, I spent a few hours on it, and I was just like, screw it. I'm doing an independent fetches. I cannot get this stupid loop working. So you get 6 fetches. So we're here you can see we are using a promise. And so essentially what this is doing is it is, from what I understand, I'm sure Rascal knows better than I do, but the promise essentially it waits to fill that array. It waits to generate that array until all the fetches are complete. So until we've got all the results back, and then it dumps it into the array. Yeah. How do you pronounce fetched? Oh, yeah, I pronounce it like fetched. So like your first option there. You need to buy some blue light glasses. Your screen. Yeah, yeah. You got to. Yeah, be nice to your eyes. Oh yeah, and if you're getting a CORS issue, yes, this API should not have any CORS restrictions. So yeah, try to make sure that your URL is correct and that you're using HTTPS. Um, so yeah, and we're gonna add all of our fetch request variables, fetch rec1. Um, oops, screwed that up. Hang on. Parenthesis. There we go. Fetch rec1, fetch 2, fetch 3, fetch 4. And like I say, like I could have kept messing with this forever until I got my async await perfectly and I got it in a beautiful loop. But like Leon says, right, it's all about the effort versus the return. And I wanted to build something cool, and I was able to build something cool even if my code is slightly clunky. So in the end, it does it work? Yes. Is it beautiful? No. But it works. All right, so we've got a nice array, and it's got all of our fetches in it. And we're going to console log this again, and I'll show you what it looks like. And we're going to take a break too. After we console log our object, we're going to take another break because it's 10 o'clock, at least where I live. All right, and so we've got it in an array, and so we can take that array. And then the last thing we're going to do is we can say all array all data dot then, and we're going to do some stuff with it. We're going to call a function that's going to set our categories, but we're not going to call that yet. For now, we're just going to console log what we get. Console log results. That's all. That's as far as we're going to go for now. All right, and I am missing a closing parenthesis. Boop. There we go. Got to close my then. There we go. Okay, that should work. And also got to make sure I'm calling it. So I'll just call it manually from within the I'll call it manually from within the console because we haven't added our event listener yet. All right, so yeah, let's try it. Okay. There we go. Okay, so look at this. We got back an array with 6 items in it, and we can see that inside of that array there are 6 objects. And each of those 6 objects is one of our categories. So we can see that the category title is here, holiday fill in the blank, things to give thanks for. I've got a 6-pack. Number 1 songs. I have Spokane and Rhymebot. And if we expand one of these categories, like Rhymebot, we can see that inside of those categories, we have our clues. And we have our answer. So this is everything we need to build the rest of the game. Rascal says, I got fiber. I do have fiber, Rascal. Yeah, I'm on gigabit speeds here, man. It's nice. I live in a suburb that's just outside of a major university, so you better believe we got the fiber. Yeah, Sudden asks, shouldn't we track the random integer generated so we don't duplicate? Yeah, I thought about doing that, and that was just one of those things I didn't have time to do. I thought about saying, check, doing a check on the random int, but with with 18,000 random integers, I actually haven't had a problem with getting duplicates yet. But yeah, you can. That's definitely in the possible improvements to be made. My teacher doesn't like magic numbers, so we're forced to use const on everything. Hey, yeah, you got to do what you got to do, right? If they were all the same, I would have felt vindicated. We got two duplicate answer. Yeah, so this is probably because of the dollar amounts. So I imagine if we look at, so let's look at apricot here. Let's see. Oh, it looks like the difference is a game ID. So so this question was just dropped in. It was just put in twice. One where the game ID was accidentally left null, and the other one where it was actually populated. So that's a problem on the API side. Yeah. Yeah, and so you can potentially get it twice, but the thing is, like here, these have the same dollar value, so it won't matter anyway, right? Because we only have one item with this. So that category dollar value pair only occurs once for each category. So as long as each duplicate has the same dollar value, we don't have to worry about it. I got apricot. I got apricot. Yeah, but in this case, it won't matter. Yeah, it's not going to hurt us. Okay. Yeah, and you could definitely do a check to make sure the game ID is not null. But again, it won't matter here just because it looks like these have the same. So, for example, if we look at Upshot, I'm going to guess that the game ID here is null and the game ID here is populated, but they have the same dollar value again, right? So we're only going to grab the dollar value, an item with that dollar value once in that category, so it won't matter. Yeah, no, it is an interesting API result, right? It just shows the way that this API was constructed. There's a little bit of duplication there, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's take a break. We'll put 5 minutes on the clock, and when we get back, we now have this object, and now we're gonna build out. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna build out the categories in the top row here, and then we're gonna figure out how to make it happen so that when I click on one of these boxes, we remember we added an event listener earlier. When I click on one of these boxes, it'll figure out what categories up here, and it will generate an appropriate question. So that's what we'll do. Don't get apricot. All right. Oh, and I'm going to do I'll do a push as well since we're on break. So, all right, I'm going to start the timer now. Start, go. Okay, and I'll go ahead and do a push here. Okay, there you go. Why are you seeing gray dots in between the grid? That is an Ezekiel. That is an optical illusion. Yeah, if you stare at a grid like this, you'll see gray dots that flash in your eyes, and that's a well-known optical illusion, which is kind of cool. Yeah, it's eye strain. Well, but that'll happen if you look at any kind of grid with contrasting colors. Yeah, it's an optical illusion. Yeah, speaking of eye strain, I'm going to get up and go look at something else for a minute. All right, come on back, folks. We are wrapping up the break here, and yep. Okay, goodbye, GMAC. Have a good night. I will see you on the next stream. I'm actually thinking I might move this Wednesday stream to be like an hour earlier. I don't know how everybody feels about that. Just because my streams have gotten so like consistently long, that it's actually, usually when we wrap these up it's pretty late for me. So I might move Wednesday streams up by an hour. We'll see. Yeah, earlier would help. Yeah. Oh, Born, you didn't get to heat up your white guy. I'm sorry. No, man, no, Born, we just got started, my friend. We just got started. We just got to the good stuff. um but yeah, I'm thinking about adjusting my schedule. Okay. So part two next stream. Nah, I'm sorry. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. We can do this. All right. Um, for you, it's 4 a.m. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So what do? We hit the API. We logged 6 independent results to a nice big array, and we're going to use this array for the whole rest of our code. But right now, right now, just looking at this array, what's a potential issue here that might prevent me from using it elsewhere in my code? That might be too vague of a question. Um, what's a potential issue with this array? Yeah, Ezekiel got it. The scope, right? I hydrated. Hydrated. Yeah, yeah. It's local, right? Yeah, we haven't put it anywhere that we can use it. Um, and so I'm going to go ahead and I mean, I like to avoid using global variables when I can, but in this case, I think it serves a relevant purpose. And I could have made this more object oriented as well. I just didn't. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and use a global. We're going to go ahead and use a global variable, and we're just going to, before we call this function, we're just going to declare cat array. Y'all liked cat row, so now you get cat array. Cat array. We're going to declare an empty array, and then we're going to dump the results into. So we're going to, so in our then statement here, we're going to go ahead and say cat array equals result, and so that will store it so we can use it later. Yeah. Cat array. Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. So that will help us out a lot later on. All right. So we're going to save that. Now we can use it elsewhere. And let's see. Build categories. Okay, we did that. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to load our categories into the board. What did you type before cat array? Sorry, this function, all it does is just generates a random integer for us. That's it. And that we just use that random integer when we hit the URL. That's just to make this more easy to read. Like this. Oh, this is just declaring an empty array. That's just setting up the array so we can dump the result into it. Yeah, it's just a global variable is all. Global variable is all. Yeah. It's just declaring it so we can dump something into it later. And we're declaring it outside of the function so that it has global scope, so that it can be used in other functions as well. Got to have a bucket to fill. That's right. Because if I declared it inside of my function, if I declared it inside of here, like say let cat array inside of here, I wouldn't be able to use it anywhere else. It would be scoped inside of the function. Yeah. Okay. So now let's set our categories. And I'm actually gonna comment this so that it's a little bit easier to this is a little bit easier to follow. So I'm gonna say call API. Yep. And I commented that already. I'm gonna do some quick comments here so it's a little easier to follow. Great clue board. Trying to get better at commenting things. Category row. Okay, comment that, call it API. Okay, cool. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to generate our categories. So we're going to generate that row of categories that appears at the top of the board. Yeah, they're funny. All right, so we're going to set a function called set categories. And into that, we could, let's see. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pass in the cat array. I think we can do that. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and pass in the category array that we just created. And what we're doing here is we're essentially grabbing, we want to reach into that array, reach into the array, grab the title of each category and drop it into the DOM. Okay, so if we went back to, let's look at where we're trying to go with this. So if we go back into our board here and we inspect it, and we call our function that we just created, we call build categories. And we hit that bad boy. All right, so we can see that each category has a title. So we want to reach into our result here. We want to reach into our array and we want to grab this title and we want to grab the value associated with that title property. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to let the element that we want to drop these categories into is going to be document dot get element by ID. It's going to be our category row. That's where we want to put this stuff. Category row. Okay. And then inside of that row, right, we have 6 boxes. And so those boxes are essentially children of the parent row. They're nested inside of the row. So they are children of the row. So those are children, and we can essentially call them as such. We can say element.children. And JavaScript will know what that is. It will know that, oh yeah, I can see that I've got this row and there's stuff inside of it. So those are the children of the row. It knows what those are. And so with that in mind, we can literally loop through those 6 boxes just like that. Yeah, children of the corn, children of the row. Yeah, that's so cool to me. Essentially, that the JavaScript can just reach into the HTML and be like, oh yeah, I can see you got some stuff inside of here. Well, just okay, yeah, I can deal with that. I can treat that like an array. I can loop through that like an array. It's wild, man. I could probably do like an array loop for this, but I just did it this way. I just did a classic for loop. So so essentially, we can just treat this like, we can treat each of those boxes inside of the row, we can treat them like an array and we can loop through them. Yeah, it's wild. I love it. Loop through that bad boy. And so essentially we're gonna stop it inside of each box and we're gonna dump in the title of each category into each box. We can call the children children. Amazing what technology has come to. Yeah. Right. So now I can say I'm going to declare each child. Well, actually, I'm not. I might skip that. We're not going to get too crazy in here. Essentially, we're just going to say children. Try this. Children for each child element, right? For each child element, we are going to set the inner HTML equal to the cat array item title. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. So we're grabbing the each box, each div in the row. We're grabbing that div as we loop through it. We're grabbing each one and we're setting the inner HTML of that div to the essentially to the title item inside of our cat array, right? So we declared the array. We look inside each array, each of the 6 array elements, and we get the title property. Yep. Yeah, it's an HTML collection, so it's array-like, but not a full array. Yeah, so certain array functions won't work on it. Yeah, exactly. But we can still pretend like it is an array. Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, Persizzle. Yeah, welcome. Okay, so yeah, what this will do is it will just go ahead and it will essentially load categories to the board. Yeah. All right. Now I think we can go ahead and we can start dropping in. I want to be able to make this clickable so I can, so I don't have to keep calling it from the console. So I'm going back to my notes here to make sure that I get the right thing. So I'm going to add, I want to go ahead and add an event listener onto my button so that I can use that to call do my API call and also build out the categories. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to call set categories inside of the previous function. So whenever we click that new game button, we want it to make the API call, create the array, and then also generate the categories. So set categories, cat array. Yeah, so and that one button click is going to do all of that. It's going to do the API call and it's going to fill in the categories. So we should be able to test this now. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to also add my event listener. I'm going to set an event listener on my button to do all of this rather than manually calling it. Document, query selector on my button, add event listener, click, and then we're going to call build categories. Yeah. All right. Let's try it. Oh, excuse me. I need to sneeze. I'm going to mute for just a second. Okay. And we're back. Sneeze successful. Okay. Now let's see if our see if our event listener works. Hey, it worked. Awesome, Edward. Woohoo. Okay. I'm going to see if mine works. I'm going to see if I did as good as you, Edward. What? Check it, check it, check it. Yo. Yeah. So we click the button, we got our categories, and then if we look in our console, we should see also that the whole object is there. The whole array is there as well. Yeah. Hello, array. Woohoo. Okay, good to go. So we've got our categories, we've got our array. Awesome possum. Jeopardy. You are funny. Okay. Now let's head back here. So that works. We're trucking along pretty good so far. We've said categories. Now that we've actually laid out the board, we can start making things happen when people click on individual clues. Pink Star, I'm glad you're having fun. Oh, did I gasp? No, I think I was just after the sneeze. I think I'm a little like my nose is a little clogged up, and I think I was inhaling there, just sniffing a little. Yeah. Okay. So we did set categories. Give me just 1 second to get back to where we are. Set categories. All right. So next thing we want to do is we want to actually, like I said, figure out what happens when something is clicked and pull back an actual clue and show it to the user. Okay. So but that might be that's kind of an interesting question, right? Because we have this whole like board set up, and if you recall, we put event listeners on each item in the board, right? We when we set up the board, we added an event listener to every single box. But how do we figure out how how do we figure out which item was clicked? What can we use to pinpoint what can we use to pinpoint a click? Does anybody know? Oh, doggy mischief. Yeah. Now he just came out and he shook his collar and then he just laid down on the floor. Yeah, Ezekiel. Yep. Event target. Yeah. So we're going to use a target, which is going to tell us what item was clicked. Doggo's making their presence known. Yeah. So we're going to call this function get clue. Get clue. And we're just basically going to pass in an event. And so what happens is this, and if you recall, we had to declare this earlier so that the console wouldn't freak out. But now we're actually going to do the real thing. So every time this event listener fires, it's going to call this get clue function, and we're going to pass in essentially what we're passing in is information about the item that was clicked. So just automatically, that event listener is going to pass in information about the click. So we can say let child equals event dot current target. Now, let's console log that. And let's see what that is. Console log child. Okay, so now if I just click one of these, let's see. I did put the event listener on there, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, so you see, watch what happens when I click something. Boop, 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 boopity boop, boop, boop. Yeah, so it essentially gives me information. It gives me the HTML that was clicked as well as the value of that HTML, right? So it gives me all of that information in the event target. So that's what we want, to figure out exactly which item was clicked and where on the board it was so that we know which category it belongs to, and that will tell us which clue to deliver. Yeah, Precizzle, we're trying to essentially get the location on the board that was clicked so that we know what category that item belongs to. Otherwise, we won't know what clue to give them. Yeah. So that child is the current target. And we also, the first thing we want to do, the first thing we want to do is add a class to the item that was clicked. We just want to add our clicked box class. We created a class earlier that just makes the font size smaller once an item is clicked. So we're just going to add a class to that box. And then we are going to extract. Oh, bye, Sierra. Thanks for coming. Oh, Born, we did add an event listener earlier on our button. We did add a Smurf earlier. Yeah. So now what we want to do is we want to extract the value of the item that was clicked, because we need that to get our clue, right? All the clues have individual dollar values. So we need to know, did they click a $200 box or a $400 box or $600 box? What did they click? So we can get that pretty easily. We can say let box value. I mean, we could have passed it in from the previous function, but we didn't. So we're going to do it this way. Child dot inner HTML dot. Now, remember that our items in our boxes have dollar signs in front of them. So how could I get that value back but cut off the dollar sign? There's a really easy way to do it. Anybody know? Yeah. It's going to be slice. We're going to slice. We're going to slice that string starting at index 1. Yeah, so we're gonna ignore index 0, which is the dollar sign. We're gonna grab a slice of that string that's everything after the dollar sign. Yeah, and yeah, splice and slice, it can be hard to keep them straight. But if you think about like splice, when you splice something, you are essentially like generally like taking like something out of the middle, and you could substitute something else into it. But slice is literally just taking a cut. It's like a knife. It's chopping away parts of the array. Yeah, it can be hard to remember the difference. I get it mixed up too. All right, so that gives us the value that we want to search when we search up the clue. And the next thing that we need is the actual index. So like which column was the clicked item located in? Which column was it located in, so we know which category it belongs to? Oh, Rascal says, I remember splice as being the one that modifies an array permanently because it has a P in it. Splice. Oh, that's a good way to remember. Yeah. Splice is permanent. Indeed. Yeah, and sliced is separated. Yeah, lots of different good mnemonics there. So we need to know which column the clicked item belongs to. We already have its value, so we already have its vertical position. Now we need its horizontal position. So essentially, we're just getting the coordinates. So we're going to say, essentially, we need to identify the parent row and get the index of the item within the parent row. So we're going to say let parent. This is going to get a little wild, so just hold on for this. It's okay if you don't follow. Just enjoy the ride for a minute. Parent node, and let index equals. We're gonna use a prototype function here. Prototype method. There might be a better way to do this, but this is the way that I found. So okay. Wow. What on earth is that doing? Okay, so what this is doing is it's essentially it's looking for the box that was clicked. It's locating the parent, right? So if we think about our HTML, each of those boxes in the row has a parent row that it belongs to, right? So we're going up, we're looking at the parent, we're figuring out what parent it is. We're getting the parent node of the child, and then we're using a prototype to look at the relationship between the parent and the children and figure out which index that child belongs to. So let's real quick, let's go back to our HTML and let's talk this out. So let's inspect this. It'll be easier if we just look at the HTML. All right. So let's go into our body. And let's say that I clicked on, on this one right here. I clicked on the second $200 value box in that row. So what we're saying is essentially we're saying, all right, this box was clicked. So find its parent, which is this clue row right here, find its parent, and then figure out the index of that box within the row. So in this case, if I click the second one, that would be index 1 within the parent. So if we treat that row like an array, this box is at index 1 in that array. Bye, Not Norm. Yeah, feel free to catch the VOD later on. Does this count as our 7Q? Yeah. We're just saying, hey, treat this row like an array and treat each of the items within it like an array item. So if I click this one, it's at index 1. That's all I want to get. That's all we're doing there. It looks wild, but that's all we're doing. And that's not the kind of thing you need to memorize. You just need to kind of understand what we're trying to get at. And why do I want that index? Because I want the clue. I want the category at index 1 in my array. So I've got that index now. Got the index. So I'm going to go into, I'm going to figure out, okay, I know which category it belongs to now. So I'm going to say let clues list equals cat array. So I'm going to look into my array. I'm going to put in that index. So in this case, it would be like index of 1. And I'm going to get all the clues back. So now I know which category was clicked, and I can return all the clues from that category. And then the very last thing I need to do is I need to go into that list of clues. Oops, sorry, clues. That's wrong. There we go. Okay. Now I'm gonna go into the list of clues, and I'm going to use a find to go into the list of clues and find the clue with the appropriate dollar value. So I'm going to write this out, and then we're going to go back into the DOM and we're going to do it visually. Oh, I'm sorry. Born is asking, add event listener, click. Oh yeah, inside of the event listener, it's literally just calling the build categories function. Yeah, that's all it's doing. All right, so we've figured out which category we want to go into. We're going into that category. We're grabbing all the clues. And then we're going to go into those clues and find the one with the correct dollar value. So object. Oops. And we want to return object.value. So we're gonna look and we're gonna get the first one that we see with the appropriate dollar value. And we're going to assign that to a variable called clue. Okay, so let's go back into the DOM and we'll see what we just did there. All right, so we got the index of the item that was clicked. In this case, it was index of 1. And so if we go into our object, oh, and I'm not console. Hang on, got to console log my object here. All right. So we go into the list, and let's say I clicked on this item right here, right? It's on index 1 and has a dollar value of 200. So I can go into index of 1 in my object, and I'm in the category title of Wheel of Fortune. So, and now I'm diving into the clues, and I'm looking for the first one with a dollar value of 200. This one has a dollar value of 100, so I can't use that. But this one has a value of 200. And so my find method is going to go in there and it's going to grab that and say, oh, this one matches, and it's going to return the appropriate clue. Yeah. So that's all we're doing is we're just pinpointing the correct clue to display based on the item that was clicked. Okay, so we've got our clue and save that. Get clue. All right, so that should run and so I'm actually going to go ahead and let's see, am I missing a bracket here? No, that should be fine. And we'll go ahead and console log the clue. Just to make it a little easier to see. All right. Okay. Start new game, hit the API, populate the categories. We got our object here. I should click something. And you can see that I get back a specific clue. This is an individual clue. It's got the question, it's got the answer, and my dollar value. So my category matches the appropriate category or whatever, and the value is correct as well. Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? So if you think about it, all we're doing is we're just identifying coordinates, right? In this case, our y coordinate, our vertical coordinate is identified by dollar value. And our x coordinate or our horizontal coordinate is identified by category. So it's just you could use this in a lot of different ways depending on what you're building, but if you want to figure out what item was clicked, you need to identify where it is horizontally and vertically on the grid. And in this case, we use dollar value and category to do that. Dollar value and index essentially to do that. Yeah. Yeah, it is cool, isn't it? Yeah, this is a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun to figure out. Which API are you using? It's called here. Let's see. I still have it open. It's called JService. Here, I've got the URL here. jservice.io. Yeah, and Emily just shared it there. Yep, jservice.io. Yep. If you go to their GitHub, yeah, and Presidio, it can be kind of hard to figure out how to structure your URLs. But if you go to your GitHub, if you go to their GitHub, you can look at some of the other projects that have used this API, and you can grab the URL structure from some of their projects. Yeah. Okay, so now we've got our clue. And so all that's left is to actually show it to the user, right? We got to show the user the clue. We have it, but we haven't shown it to anybody yet. So the next function we're going to call is going to be called show question. And into that function, we're going to pass the clue. We're going to pass the item that was clicked. So in this case, the child. And we're going to pass the dollar value because that's going to be shown to the user in the message that we give them. Open TDB. Ooh, rascal. I'll have to check that one out. I haven't looked at that one yet. All right. So this function is figure out which item was clicked. That's what this one's doing. And I'm just going to go ahead and commit and push again. Just as we're finishing these functions. Oops. Ah, come on. I hate it when it scrolls up like that. It's so annoying. Stop it. It's not going to recognize that command. Yeah, I'm using the arrow keys. It's not letting me do that anymore. I'm stuck. Control C. Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, we could try Q. Try WQ colon WQ. Yeah. Ooh. Oh, there we go. It was doing like it was like hung up there for a minute. Okay, so now it looks like I'm in write mode. I'm like in, oh, good night, Pink. There we go. That worked. Got it. Okay, now, so we did get add. Let's do that again just to make sure. There. Oh, Vim. Love-hate relationship with Vim. Okay. I'm being very careful with what I'm typing now. Oh, boy. All right, there we go. Oh, you're saying goodnight to Born. Okay. Key smash for days. Yeah, who knows what I was running there, Rascal? I don't know what I don't know what I hit. No clue. Just a little key smash. It's okay. Get Bash gets offended when you call it Vim. Yeah. It knew what I was thinking and it got offended. Yeah. Ticket closed, unable to replicate. Oh man. Boy, have I seen that. Okay. Yeah, so the next thing we're gonna do is we've identified exactly which question we want to show to the user. And so we want to show question to user. And get what do I say? Get their answer. Yay, finally we got some user interaction, right? Function show question. And again, we're passing in the clue, the target, the item that was clicked, and the box value. Pass that in. And then, so essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to use the built-in prompt, built-in prompt box. I didn't do anything special here. This is already complicated enough. I'm just using the built-in browser prompt to get the user's input and show them the question. So we're going to say let user answer equals prompt. And we can show them the question very easily just by saying clue.question, because we've passed in the clue from the previous function. We passed in that whole object. And so we go into that object and we specifically get the question property out of that clue. So boop, doop. If I click an item here, oh, that's okay. It's show question is not defined. Don't worry about it. So we're going to go in there and we're going to get the specific, we're going to get the specific clue that was clicked, and we're going to get the question property out of that clue. Okay. I worked in a pediatric practice who's beta testing an EMR, and we had so many of these tickets, so many unexpected features. Oh, yeah, jeepers. All right, so we're going to prompt the question to the user, and whatever they answer, I want to put it to lowercase, just to help keep things from, capitalization, from getting a question to be marked, from getting an answer to be marked wrong. It's just trying to parse it out a little bit. And we're going to and we're also going to get the correct answer, so the actual answer to the question, so that we can compare the user answer and the correct answer. So correct answer is going to be clue dot answer. So we showed the user the question and we got what they think it is. Now we're going to get what it actually is. So clue dot answer to lowercase. Now I'll admit, I know there was a little bit of discussion about regex earlier in the chat there, and I did try to use some regex because I noticed that some of the stuff that's coming back has like italic tags around it, which doesn't display properly, like in a prompt box, and so it marks it wrong. Yeah, exactly, Presidio. Yeah, and so I did use a little bit of regex to try and parse that. You don't have to know what this means. I don't even know what it means. I found some default regex that was supposed to try to help with that, and it does a little bit sometimes, but some of the questions still sneak through. So you can only do your best, right? So I just found this. I don't know what, I don't know how to read it, but it's that regex voodoo, right? It just does stuff magically. So that's supposed to help try to parse it's supposed to try what it's supposed to try to do is to get HTML tags, strip them off of that. But it only kind of sort of works. Yeah, and you could do that. You could add the text. You could put the text into a hidden tag of some kind, and then pull the text content back out of the tag. So just to grab the text itself. But we'll get there in a second. But we're actually going to kind of fudge it a little bit by letting the user evaluate whether the question is right, and that actually kind of fits with Jeopardy rules. But we'll get there in a second. Because Jeopardy rules are kind of flexible with answers. So we'll get there in just a sec. All right, so we've got the user answer. We've got the correct answer. We're also going to figure out how many possible points could be assigned to the user. So we're going to set possible points equal to the value that we extracted out of the item that they clicked on, right? So if I click on a $400 box, I want it to be able to potentially give me 400 points, right? So I'm going to just grab the box value, set it equal to a number. We know how to do that, right? We know this unary operator that converts a string to a number. We've seen that before. And then we're going to set the inner HTML of the box that was clicked. We're going to set it to the answer. So target.innerHTML is going to be, so that the bot, whatever box they click, whether or not they get the question right, I want to flip it from the dollar value to the actual answer of the question. Clue.answer. And then I also want to remove the event listener that was on the box so that they can't click the box again. Because if they click the box again after the value has been changed, then it throws an error in the console. So I don't want that. I'm going to strip off the event listener so that they can't click it again. I'm going to say target.remove event listener. Target.remove event listener. Click. Essentially all I'm doing here is I just have to strip off all the properties that I gave it. So it just has to match the one above. So we're not calling anything here. We're just removing it. Yeah, Presidio, we can make a helper function and loop through until you don't see any non-alphabetical characters. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah. Hey, Bit Retro, welcome. Bit Retro, we are building a fully functional Jeopardy game in the browser. So we're going to test it here in just a minute. We're just finishing up the function that shows the question to the user. Yeah, it's pretty rad. All right. So let's see now if we are able to show the question. We aren't going to be able to evaluate whether or not it's right, but we should be able to just show it to the user. Okay. Let's figure it out. See if this works now. Okay. I think I saved. All right, so we can start our game. We can see that our object has been generated. Now, I'm going to do children's literature. I'm going to click on the $200 box here. All right, check it. So we clicked on the box. It found the right clue, and it dumped it into a prompt for us. So the children in this 1981 Chris von Allsburg book play a jungle board game that turns real. Oh, you guys got to know this one. Presigio's quick on the jump there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's Jumanji. So I can enter something here, but it's not going to it doesn't know how to evaluate it yet. It's just going to dump it into the variable. But if you look at that, see what happened is it did put the correct answer into the square that we clicked. Yeah. It didn't evaluate it or give us any points, but it did at least put it into the DOM for us. Everybody knows Jumanji. Yeah. Oh, hydrate. Thanks, Brian. I am actually out of tea. We're gonna take another break here shortly, and I'm gonna get something else to drink, and I'll hydrate then. But yeah, I'm out of fluids for now. Okay, so I'm also going to console log the clue here too, and just for posterity, I'm gonna console log clue up here. All right, and then we show the question, and then yeah, let's go ahead and break now. And then when we come back, we'll make it so we can evaluate the answer and see whether the answer that the user put in was correct or not. And then the last thing we need to do is just award points to the user. And then we'll be done. So break time. And then we'll come back and we'll do those last couple functions. And then the very last function that we need to do is really just allow the user to reset the board. So click a button and reset the board. And then our game will be done. Okay, Bersigio, thanks for coming. Nice to have you. All right, we're gonna put 5 minutes on the clock. See you in 5 minutes. And I'm gonna do actually, I'm not gonna push right now. I just did it, so we'll do it after we do the next couple. I'll push again after I do the next couple functions. Okay, reset, start. Here we go. Okay, we got about 1 more minute left. I made a fresh cup of tea so I can actually do the hydrate as soon as it cools down a little bit. But it's gonna need a minute. It's pretty hot right now. So hot right now. Yeah, one of the limitations of the of this API is, so a little Jeopardy trivia for you guys. Prior to 2001, I believe, Jeopardy actually had different dollar values for its clues. So if your random call pulls back clues that only existed prior to like 2001, they might not even have any available dollar values that you can use like on the board, because they would be all different. Um, so you could, so ways around this, you could filter your, when you do your API call, you can add an additional parameter for air date. So you could filter the air date to exclude anything that aired before, like, I don't know, you could, just to be safe, you could be like 2002, just filter out everything that aired. And you can do that. I mean, that's a property on the result. So on the JSON, so you could filter out anything with an air date prior to 2002, which should help cut down on those invalid categories. That would be my suggestion. But I didn't do that. This is, like I said, this is already complicated enough. So I just left it as is. So occasionally you might get invalid categories, but it doesn't interfere with the game. It just makes it so you can't do that category. Alrighty. So let's finish this bad boy out. So we've shown the question to the user and given them the opportunity to give us an answer, right? Oh, you didn't know that Jeopardy? Yeah, to be honest, Pink, I didn't know it either, and I can't. But I was like, why do some of these categories have super weird dollar values? And so, the dollar values have apparently changed several times throughout Jeopardy history. So I went to the Jeopardy Wikipedia page and was trying to figure that out. More of a time sink. All right, so we've shown the user the question, we've captured their answer. Now we get to evaluate it. So we're going to say function evaluate answer. And into that function, we are going to pass the user's answer, the correct answer, and the possible points they could be awarded. Oh yeah, thanks for answering that, Rascal. That is correct. It tries to. It doesn't really succeed in all cases. Rascal had some good suggestions on maybe that might be more feasible, like putting it into a dummy HTML element and then extracting the inner text that way, which I think would absolutely work. But yeah, the regex tries its best. So yeah, we're gonna see. Sorry, that's the wrong one. My bad. I'm sorry. Hang on. Show question. Oh yeah, I want to evaluate answer. My bad. So after show question, we're going to capture what the user gave us, and then we're going to pass it into our evaluate answer function to essentially figure out whether the answer is right, and then tell the user what the result. Good night, Lamb Sauce. Thanks for coming. Catch the VOD tomorrow. All right, so we passed in user answer, correct answer, possible points. Pew. And now we're going to check the answer to see whether it was right or not. Let's check answer. Essentially, it's a very simple check. Is user answer equal to correct answer? If it is, return correct. If it's not, return incorrect. Hooray. So we're doing just only a very basic check here, because essentially we're going to let the user make the final decision as to whether to award the points or not. This is what I was going to say about Jeopardy rules. So if you think back to like when a contestant is on Jeopardy, they might say, the clue might be something like, what is the name of what's the name of a famous architect that designed a lot of mid-century homes that are preserved throughout the United States? And the answer might be Frank Lloyd Wright, but the contestant might say, uh, Lloyd Wright or something like that. And it's up to Alex, or the host, to decide whether they want to accept that answer. Yeah, and Bunch versus Lovely Bunch of Coconuts. Exactly. That was the first question that we answered here in our version of the game. And so it's whether or not you like the is it close enough or not, right? And so we've done our initial check and made an initial determination of correct or incorrect. But now we're going to we're going to say let confirm answer equals, and we're going to pass this back to the user to make the final decision. So we're going to give them a confirm box. And the confirm box has two choices: okay or cancel. So confirm, and I have a big long string of text here. I'm going to just drop it in. And I'm going to word wrap that as well. There we go. All right. So confirm answer is just going to tell the user, hey, for this many possible points, you answered, give them their answer. And the correct answer was, give them the correct answer. Your answer appears to be, and then the result of the check. So either correct or incorrect. And you can either click OK to accept, or click cancel if the answer was not properly evaluated. So, we're not playing for stakes here. The user should be allowed to evaluate whether they were judged fairly. All right, Sonic, thanks for coming. Do they have judges? Yeah, and that's another thing too. Jeopardy actually has a panel of judges. So if there's a dispute about the way a clue was answered, sometimes they'll change the ruling and they'll declare something was correct or incorrect, 5 or 10 minutes later. So there's a lot of subjectivity that goes into Jeopardy, and that's why I gave this option. Yeah. So essentially, we then grab the judgment, and we pass that into one final function, which is going to award the points. So we pass in check answer, confirm answer, and possible points. Oh, I need to comment this as well. Okay. And the last thing we do is we award the points. Points. Award points. And essentially we want to say, okay, so what is the scenario in which we give someone points? Well, we give someone points if their answer was correct, right? If their answer was correct and they answered essentially okay to the confirm box, right? So we gave them a confirm box, they say okay. And what that does on the back end is it returns a value of true. If they click cancel on the confirm box, it returns a value of false. So we give them points if their answer was correct and they clicked true. Or if their answer was incorrect and they clicked cancel, saying that they weren't judged fairly, then we just go ahead and we give them the points. So there's two scenarios in which we give them points, but there's only essentially one scenario in where we don't give them points. And that scenario where we don't give them points is if their answer was incorrect and they agree that it's incorrect. So we return a value of incorrect. We say, hey, it looks like you answered the question wrong. And they click the OK button. They say, yep, I answered that question wrong. In that case, they don't get any points. All right, so we're going to structure our if function or our if statement in this way. We're going to say if not, so if check answer so in all other scenarios, aside from this one where they got the question wrong and they agree that they got it wrong, we're going to award them points. Okay. So as long as they didn't get the question wrong and as long as they didn't agree that they got the question wrong, then we give them points. Else, we're going to give them an alert that says no points awarded. Okay, so how do we give them points? Well, we want to dump those points into our we have a score. We have this in our HTML. We way back when 3 hours ago we generated a span to dump the score into with an ID of score, right? So we want to put our score in there, and as they answer more questions right, we want to add that value to the score. Okay, so we're going to say our target is going to be get element by ID, and whoops. We also need to make sure that we know the current score. So we're going to say current score. So if they already have 200 points, we want to just add this new score onto that. So we're going to figure out the current score, and we're going to get the inner text of the score field as it currently is. Target.inner text. Okay. And so now we know how many points they just got. We know the current score. And so we just say let current score equals, and sorry, let current score, my bad. Hang on. Current score, add the new possible points. So just adding the new points to the current score and then reassigning it back to the text box. Hey, all right, so it just takes it out, it checks, it grabs it, it adds the new score to it, and it puts it back in the text box. Okay, so we've awarded our points, and let's try it out now. Let's see if it works. I think I've got all my function calls here. Yep. All right, so let's test. I'm gonna need some, it's pretty late where I am, so I'm gonna need some, I know, whew, right? So I might need some trivia help. Okay. So which category do you want to do? Oh, and I think my tea is cool enough now, so I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get a hydrate in. You want DIY? Okay. All right. What dollar value? We're gonna do DIY. Like, ooh, ooh. What dollar value? 400? Okay. DIY for 400, please, Alex. To clean red wine out of a carpet, sprinkle on this common condiment for 15 minutes, then rinse with soap. Try to talk like Alex. I'm not very good at it. To clean red wine out of a carpet, sprinkle on this common condiment for 15 minutes and sprinkle with soap. Ooh, we got some different guesses here. Salt? Really? Ketchup? Club soda? Oh my goodness. Oh boy. I don't know if baking soda, that was my first thought, is baking soda, but I don't know if that's a condiment. Club soda? Is club soda a condiment? Yeah. Wix 3572 said salt. Ooh. Okay, let's do salt. All right. I'm really curious because I never heard of salt working before, so let's try it. Vinegar or salt? What? Yes. For $400, you answered salt, and the correct answer was vinegar or salt. Now, it was judged incorrect by a strict comparison, but I would say that we got it. Yeah, I'd have no idea that salt was a possibility. All right, so we're going to click cancel because we should still get the points, right? So if you can look, see, we've got 400 points, and now it puts the right answer into the box for us. Yeah, I'm curious. Let's do 600 as well. All right, fix your stained glass problems using this. The word for any alloy that's heated to join the lead strips. Oof. All right, Stan and Stan, thanks for coming. We're rich. These are hard. Solder. Yeah, I bet you're right. Nat 20's coming in with that first time chat. I think Nat 20's is right. I think it's solder. Yeah. Okay, let's try it. Hey, woo! Nat 20's coming in hot. I like it. Okay, so we're going to click OK. So, we got the answer right. So we're going to click OK, and it's going to give us the points. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's blitz the category. Come on, let's blitz the category. All right. If you're working with wood that doesn't need a finished look, you can use the waffle head type of this. Is it a nail? I think I've seen nails with like a waffle pattern on the head. Is that right? Yeah, Nat 20 got a Nat 20. That's right. Yeah, I feel like I've seen waffle head nails, but I'm not sure. Yeah, and that's right, Ray Anthony. You could assign the score to local storage if you wanted. I'm hydrating. Hammer? Yeah. I'm not sure. Hammer? Okay. Or joint? Yeah, it could be a joint. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking it might be nail, but I'm gonna go. It seems like the consensus is hammer, so we'll try hammer. Hey, yeah, we're killing it. All right, so for $800, you answered hammer. The correct answer was a hammer. Pfft, lame, but still, that's the correct answer. So we can click cancel, and we get our points. Now, all right, two more. Let's do the easy one first, and then we'll do the $1,000. All right. This word for a way to save energy and money also refers to sealing up the seams of a ship. This word for a way to save energy and money also refers to sealing up the seams of a ship. Insulate? I was thinking caulk, like CAULK. But I'm not sure. This is way hard for a $200 question. Jeepers. Pinch. Way to save energy and money. Patch, plug, shrugging emoji. Yeah, I'm genuinely not sure. I'm gonna say insulate or caulk. You think it's caulk? Said Panda. Yeah, I mean that's the first thing that came to my mind was caulk. Um, I'm seeing. Yeah, I'm gonna go with caulk. We'll see. Eh. Caulking. Yeah. Darn right. We got it. Sad Panda coming in clutch too. Caulking, yeah. Well, that's what you do with like windows and doors when you want to seal up the cracks. Yeah. And I had definitely heard of it in terms of ship, like sealing up a ship. So that's the only word that came to mind. I need to caulk my money. All right, so we got that right. So we're gonna cancel and get the points. Yeah. All right, last question. $1,000. We can do it. We have blitzed this category. We can do this. I believe in us. All right. Okay. To cut a hole in drywall for an electrical outlet, use this saw that sounds like you're working on a door. Yeah, the cat wants to help. What do you think it is, buddy? What do you think? What is it? Oh, yeah? Is that it? What is it? Oh, yeah, that's a very good guess, buddy. Jigsaw. Mm. Door related hinge. Sawzall. It's definitely the name brand. Yeah, he's a male. He's neutered though. Rasp. Yeah, rasping saw. Yeah. Quad saw. Meow saw. Like the cat is definitely guessing meow, something meow related. Um. Gosh, I don't know. I really don't know. Your dad is asleep. Yeah. Keyhole saw. Ooh. That could do it. I'm not. I'm not really getting like the. Yeah, I'm not feeling the door vibe with any of the guesses so far. You say the cat saying, yeah. I mean, keyhole saw maybe, yeah. I think these questions are 100 years old. Well, I think Jeopardy's only been going since like 1980 or something. So, knock saw. Um, Jigsaw. Oh, dumpster. Yeah. He is outside. He's everywhere. He's outside your window. He's outside my window. He's on trying to get on my lap. He's everywhere. All right, let's try. I'm kind of curious. Keyhole saw. Yeah, I'm gonna say keyhole. I agree. Um, let's try it. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. Hey! What? What? We got it, y'all. We got it. Oh dang! Right? Big clap. Yeah. Emleg got it. Those $1,000 clues are tricky, man. Yeah, and like I say, if you wanted to, if we feel like, if you feel like you're getting like weird, obscure, out of date clues, you can filter the API so that it only returns clues that are like, since a certain date, right? There's a min date parameter that you can pass into the API. Oh, and like it wasn't something, okay, who was it? I'm sorry. I want to get the right person. I want to try. I want to Keel saw Timmy C 138. Woo! You got it. Yeah, we blitzed the category. Good job, guys. All right, so we're gonna say cancel. We got the points. Good job, us. 3,000. We won. Yes. Yes, Kitty, are you happy that we did it? Yeah, he is. We could win if they let 57 people play at once, right? Team effort. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. The Kitty, I know. So the very last thing we need to do is one more function that just basically helps us reset the board when we want to start a new game. So right now, if I click start new game, let's say like, okay, I don't like the rest of the categories. I don't want these. I want to start a new game. So if I click that, I get new categories. But oh wait, no, it did work. Did I already put that? Hang on. Oh, I was using the wrong one. I was using my completed version. So if we do this on ours real quick, and we just and we answer a question. Uh, Ooh, this is assembled from dead bodies. The monster in this. Oh, Frankenstein. Yeah, Frank and I wasn't sure if I just put the monster or not, but Frankenstein. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So we've got a clue on the board here. And if I click start new game, we can see I get new categories, but my old clue stays on the board because I set the text on that object to be the answer, and there's nothing to reset it. So the last thing we need to do is just build a quick little reset function to clear the board and start over, and then we will be done. Okay. So we awarded our points. All right. Now we're going to put our reset function up a little bit higher. Again, you can put it wherever you want, but I just put it, I'm going to put it just below my build categories function, because we're going to do a check. Essentially what we're going to do is when they click the button to start a new game, we're going to add a little check into our build a categories function to see if the board has been modified, and then reset it if it has. So I'm just going to put it down here. Reset board and dollar amount if needed. Yeah. All right. So we're just going to do a quick function called reset board. And essentially what we want to do is we want to take the HTML back to what we started with before we added all those extra elements. Just reset it, just strip those off, and then run the init board and init cat row functions again to rebuild the board. So I'm going to say let clue parent equals document dot get element by ID clue board. So we're grabbing the clue board where all of our clues are, and we're gonna clear it out. We're gonna eliminate everything from the board, and then we're gonna rebuild it. So we're essentially gonna say, all right, look inside of the board and delete the children, remove the children while any children exist. So while clue parent dot first child, essentially, so while there's a child left to delete, we're going to delete it. So clue parent dot remove child, essentially it just looks for nested elements inside of the parent and gets rid of them. Yeah. So just, and it's going to loop through that. It's going to keep looking for that as long as there's any children to delete, and then it's going to stop once it's done. So it'll empty the board, and then we're going to do the same thing for the category row. Let cat parent get out of here, children. That's right. Nah, I love kids. Don't have any of my own, but I do love them. But not our HTML children. So we're doing now. We're doing the same thing for the category row. While cat parent, first child. So while a first child exists, and think about it this way. So when you delete, like for example, when you delete the first element of an array, the second element slides into that first element slot. So essentially, we're just deleting the first element over and over and over again and sliding the next element in until there's no more elements left to slide in. So, and you might find that on like Code Wars questions and stuff like that. I know that's tripped me up a couple times. Remove child. Yeah. Well, you know, we're just removing them. They're going on vacation. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so now essentially once we run this, it'll put the board back to the very first, to its initial state before we even loaded any custom elements with our JavaScript. So, and the last thing we also need to do is we need to reset our score as well. The cat got really quiet. I think he wandered away. I don't know where he went. He comes and he yells at me for a little while. I pet him. I give him attention, and then he just wanders off. He's got what he's wanted, and he's gone. Inner text. So we're going to set the inner text of the score back to 0 as well, because cat parent removed child. Yeah, rascal. To be garbage collected later. Exactly. And so we've essentially reset the board back to its initial state. And so all we need to do now is call our init board, call those functions that we would have called on load. We just call those again, and it's going to reset the board for us. So that'll do that. And the now all we need to do is call this reset board function so that it runs on button click. So when that new game button is clicked, we want to check and see if the board needs to be reset, and if it does, run the reset function. So first thing we check when the button is clicked, we say essentially the easiest way for us to check this is to see, is the board in the state where it would be if we had just loaded the page where all the categories are blank, or was there already a game in progress? So if there's already a game in progress, there would be text in the category box, right? Versus if we just loaded the page and the board didn't need to be reset, there wouldn't be any text in here. So that's probably the easiest way to check it. You could get more granular if you wanted, but we're writing bad code. All right, so we're going to say if, essentially we want to say if the first element in the category row is not empty. So if not document dot query selector, sorry, dot get element by ID, if that category row element row dot first child. So we're looking inside of the first box in our category row, and we want to see, is that inner text empty or not? So if it's not empty, right, then the board probably needs to be reset. So we're going to reset it. And if it's not empty, if it is empty, so like if we just loaded the page, then nothing needs to be done. The board, the categories can be loaded as usual. The board is fine. It doesn't need to be reset. We can play the game. So that should work. Now let's test it. Boop. All right. So I click the start new game button. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to check and see if the board needs to be reset. In this case, the category row is empty. So the board is fine. It doesn't need to be reset. So it's not going to run that reset function. And then it's going to go ahead and make the API call as usual. So cool. We get our categories. We'll test one here. I think that's probably piece is probably the answer. Yep. So that's right. So we get points. So we can see we've got points on the board and we've got a value in that's been populated here. So if I click start new game now, it's going to run the category function again to get new categories, but it's also going to check and say, hey, there's text in this box. So I need to reset the board and reset the score because there's been some activity here. So we'll click this again. Now I get fresh categories. The board gets reset with all the dollar values and my score gets set back to 0. Yep. Yeah, so now this is fully functioning and we can play as many rounds as we would like. And essentially we're done. Coding really is magic. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and commit and push this for you guys, so you can clone it or whatever you want to do. Saved, and actually, and I forgot. Dang, I was going to show you guys how to do this in VS Code, and I forgot. So if you want to go ahead and commit and push directly from VS Code without using the command line, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying you can. You can click on the, once you, first off, you have to link your code to your repo first. Like you have to get it set up as an actual, Git repository, right? But after you've done that, then you should see, your stuff should change colors as you change it. And you can click on the source control button here. And you can see that it shows your changes here. So we've made changes to our JavaScript file. And we can add our commit message right here. So I'm going to say, I think since my last push, I think we added uh, we added score checking and reset game function. Yeah, exactly. Yep. It kind of handles the confusing stuff for you. So we're adding our message here. And I say, okay, yep, I'm ready to commit. And there's no stage changes to commit. Yeah, well, we didn't do the add. So we can go ahead and stage all the changes and commit them. Yep. So I'm gonna say yes. And say, yeah, I'm gonna sync it up. No, I don't want to run get fetch. No. All right, so it should be all synced up with the GitHub repo. But I mean, it's almost faster to do it in the command line, honestly. It just depends on how comfortable you are with it. So now if I look at my repo here and refresh this, yeah, so we can see all my commits are there. My latest commit is there. And yeah, so it's all done now. So many things. Oh, it's over. Yeah. So it's over. We're all done. But yeah, this is all synced up now in the repo. So feel free to grab it, clone it, fork it, whatever you want to do. Make your own versions. I think it would be kind of cool to have like an animated version that, would actually flip card, like have you click on a clue and it actually like flips the card over and shows you the question. That would be really cool. Hey, Questerson, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed the stream tonight. We had a lot of fun. I'm not sure if anybody's left, but we could go ahead and do a raid. If you have any questions, yeah, Ray Anthony, I'm glad you had a good time. Feel free to ask any questions if you have them. I'm going to look for some of that maybe we can raid with like the 2 people that are left. Thanks all for sticking it out. Like I say, I'm probably going to move my schedule so that these Wednesday streams are an hour earlier because these streams just go too long now. I'm staying up too late. All right, let's find somebody to raid. So, okay. Yeah, this is real late. I know. I'm in Eastern time too, MLeg, and I'm so tired. So we're gonna change the schedule a little bit. Also, too, I'm probably going to change my caption settings so that they're not automatically on for everyone. You'll still be able to enable them, but they won't be on for everyone all the time. Got to rep the wolf pack, right? Okay, we're going to raid somebody. Feel free to suggest someone if you have anybody that you'd like me to raid. I only see one of the people that I follow on right now. I see someone. I see Nick Wan Data Sci. Sympathy. Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's right. We rated them before, didn't we? I don't. Yeah, we got Sympathy or Nick. Anybody care either way? Or Nick Wan? Go with your gut. Okay. Um, well, I think Nick One actually has fewer viewers right now, so maybe we'll give them a little boost, huh? Yeah, we're gonna go raid Nick One because they have fewer viewers. So we'll give them a little boost. All right, choosing them. We're gonna start the raid and give it a second to fill up here. Thank you guys. Yeah, hope y'all had a great time tonight. I'll see you again very soon. I'll see you on Sunday. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start the raid.